Are we live? Oh, there we go. Now we are live. Good grief. I went and go live over a minute ago, and we're just going live. So there we are. Thank you, Art. Laura, hello. Neil, hello. And hello, Arknight. As you can see, I'm trying out the new channel name. We're going to see if Dan's Den doesn't suit the channel better. That was an idea the missus had. A few people I bounced it off of liked it, so we'll go with it. If people don't like it, I can always change it again. Who cares? Pond Puppies, how are you? All right, at the moment, I'm just puffing on regular old weed out of a regular old bowl. She's definitely better at names than I am, that's for sure. I didn't even come up with everyday fish keeping. That was a viewer that came up with the everyday fish keeping for me. All right, I'm still dealing with a very sore left shoulder, and we will not be doing anything today. I actually went out yesterday and got a sling at the old Wally World, and I was using that yesterday afternoon. It helped, but I'm not going to walk around with a sling on during my live stream. That would probably be awkward and cumbersome. So I'm not in that much pain as long as I don't actually do anything, such as lift my arm, reach, stretch, grab, or try to lift anything. So I can sort of gently hold stuff in my left hand if it's not too heavy. And so that's what we're going to do. I'll hold the fish food in my left hand, and I'll sprinkle it with my right. Just thinking about you this evening, Laura. I was watering my dragon's breath over there. You can see it's all facing away from the light because I rotated it again. And that's it. Nothing in particular. I just thought about you when I was watering the plant. I didn't think anything specific. You just popped into my head. We are going to be opening my giant Sacco high carry algae wafers. I already put the day's date on it, so I will know how long this one lasts me. It usually lasts me about 9 months. I threw away the other bag. It had the date on it. I was going to shoot a video about it, and I decided I've shot so many videos about how long the bag of high carry lasts me that I don't feel like shooting that video anymore, and so I threw it away. But considering the size of the jar that I fill up with it, I threw the bag away quite a while ago. Now that the jar is empty, we're going to open the fresh bag and refill the jar, and we'll go from there. Everyday fish shrooming. Oh, and thank you for the stop sign, Laura. I surely miss them when you're not here, because barely anybody else ever picks up the slack unless I give them what for, and then I get the occasional stop sign here and there. Got my chocolate bar in the mail this morning, so that's something. Had an interesting afternoon. It's going to probably even be a more interesting evening. I saw a butterfly fly by while I was sitting out back, and it left this long squiggly line in the air behind it. It was really fucking cool. Other than that, I haven't gotten a whole lot in the way of visuals. It was just that one butterfly left a long wiggly trail behind it. Steve. All right, I should probably set the coffee down too. I don't really need a whole lot more of that. And I am going to throw some floating Oh, actually, no, I'm not, because I don't even think I've opened this bag yet, have I? Oh, yeah, I have. It says zip close. I thought these were sinking, and I thought they were smaller. So now that the koi are getting a little bit bigger, I can start feeding them to the koi. But once again, I bought a big ass fucking sack of goldfish food. I bought it for the sinking kind to be for my fancy goldfish. And of course, I bought the wrong stuff, and it's the floating kind, and I didn't realize that until after I was using it. And so I'll start slowly working my way. That's my sinking pellets that go to my fancy. And we'll move on over there now. I already gave you guys a good hard screw right before we got started, so the camera shouldn't be too wobbly tonight. Let me lift you up a little bit. All right, some nummy nums for the fancy goldfish. Dandelion, how are you? I don't know, Laura, but it was a brilliant idea, and it should have spread like wildfire. I don't know why it hasn't. October 1st, wow. Yeah, I was wondering what was going on. I haven't seen much of you lately. You've been popping in and then disappearing and whatever. I figured they probably got you on some job site where you got to be in at fucking, 4 in the morning or something, or you're working some weird shift. So I was close enough. You got the long ass drive. That's might as well be the same thing. Frankie, hello. Hey, I figured out what the Southwest Florida was this time. Last time I saw that SWFL, I was baffled and perplexed. I had to ask what it meant. But that's all right, because I don't mind feeling dumb. I'm used to it by now. All right, well, better there than here, dude. Or dudette. Hey, Fish, how are you doing? Up at 10 of 3 and back home after 5. Good God, that's not a fucking... You can't sustain a schedule like that, Laura. Good grief. That's nuts. Oh, I'm sorry, Dandelion. I missed your comment about the stop sign, but Laura got you. Got you covered. It's just a place marker, so I know where I left off. All right, let me keep working on this bowl. This bowl is really getting on my nerves. As soon as I start puffing on it, it gets all crunchy and packed down, and now it's not really hitting properly anymore. And I just soaked a bunch of oil in there, too. I've been having all kind of issues tonight. Couldn't get my slippers worked out right. I finally gave up on even wearing my slippers because they felt all weird on my feet. First, when I put them on, they were wet because I've been walking around in the grass outside, and like I could tell the toes were wet and they felt clammy. So I put them in the dryer for about 20 minutes, and then when I put them back on, they were really warm and they felt weird on my feet because they were so warm. And I couldn't tell if it was like warm and moist or were they warm and dry. And as I walked around, they felt like really squishy and soft, and I was like, man, this just feels too fucking weird. And so I put my rubber clogs back on, and so we're wearing my knockoff Crocs tonight. Hey, Bob. Yeah, really, your brain's going to start melting down with those kind of hours. I did find my Dark Side shirt, though. And I was listening to Pink Floyd this evening. So if you want to guess what I was listening to, you're welcome to. The Dan's Den was my wife's idea. I did not listen to Dark Side. Kane, how are you? Tuning in from Westminster. Nice. Westminster, Maryland? Because I'm over in Hampstead. If you're in Maryland, we're neighbors. You nailed it, Frankie. That's one of them. I was actually listening to Animals right as we went live. No, I'm sorry. I started with Animals, and when we went live, I had moved on to Metal. And I was about halfway through Metal by the time it was time to hit the old go button. And boy, was I enjoying it because I had my headphones on. And I once again had a whole new appreciation for Pink Floyd and how amazing their music is. I know there's a lot of bands out there that like try to do psychedelic music, and it's even kind of hard to describe what psychedelic music is. Psychedelic music, I guess, in short, is just music that's really fucking cool to listen to when you're tripping. And, you know, bands like the Grateful Dead get seen as being psychedelic and all that. I never have understood that. I always saw the fucking Grateful Dead like a country folk band. Pink Floyd is a psychedelic band. When you listen to that shit tripping, you that band actually is at what they were doing. So I'm for that. All right, now it is time to open the algae wafers. And these come in like Ziploc style resealable bags. So I always dump some out into a more workable, manageable size container. And then I just put the big bag on top of the fish tank. I'm catching myself feeling self-conscious, like somebody's looking at me, and I keep looking at the camera to see which way it's pointing. It's not pointing at me. They're not looking at me. They can't see me. I put my bags of dude in containers too. I followed the instructions on the package of candy bars as far as the dosing recommendation. I'll give it to them. I'd say that it was a fairly accurate dosing recommendation. It said 1 to 3 squares, and above it, it had smiley face and said a day at the office. 4 to 6 squares was a day at the beach, and had the smiley face with like half starting to melt. And then 7 or above was a day on the moon and had like a fully melted smiley face. And so I took 6. I started with 3, and I made the fucking amateur mistake, which I can't believe I laughed at myself for it though already. So you're feel free to laugh with me. And yes, my wife laughed at me too. About an hour and a half after I ate the first 3, I was thinking, this is all right. You know, this was a pretty nice trip. I don't think I'd want to be in the office right now. You know, maybe 2 might be okay for the office, but 3 is probably a little much for the office. Then I was like, fuck it, this isn't much at all. I can do 3 more, and we'll see where that takes me. And as soon as I ate the next 3, within like 10 minutes or so, I was like, oh, wow. Like, I was really starting to trip a lot more. And I'm thinking, this can't be the fucking 3 I just ate like a couple of minutes ago. And sure as hell, it wasn't. So about an hour later, the next 3 started rolling on. And so here we are. Um, I've talked about the whole hearing your own voice thing a long time ago. I'll go over that again tonight because that's a fun thing to talk about right now. No, I don't think the fish have that much brains, Laura, but they do watch me. I know that. So I might start getting paranoid. Oh, look at them discus. They're all giving me the hairy eyeball. Jesus. It's a whole tank full of them. And it's all the damn rainbow fish, and there's some friggin' platies in there. Everybody's giving me the hairy eyeball. They know it's feeding time is what it is. Yeah, if you've got a really thick Scottish accent, it's really hard to understand. I'll agree with that. At least for me to understand. I guess if you're Scottish, it's probably perfectly easy. Yeah, if you're talking about your accent, that's something completely different. I was kind of talking about what Laura's saying, like just people don't like hearing their own voice. It just doesn't sound the same. It doesn't like everybody. Their first reaction to the first time they hear themselves recorded, they're like, "Do I really sound like that?" Like everybody says that, and everybody around them says, "Yeah, that's exactly what you sound like." And so you can be self-conscious about that. When I was a teenager and I first heard my own voice recorded or whatever, it made me feel weird, and I didn't want to talk on camera or talk on a microphone or anything anymore. Um, you do 10 years of YouTube and everything, all the other videos I've shot and all the narration I've done, and you know, I'm to the point now where what I hear in my head matches what you guys are hearing. It matches up with what's on my videos and whatnot. I've listened to myself enough now that I actually know what I really sound like. And so there's probably still some distortion because of the bones in my head vibrating and all that bullshit, you know. Um, but I pretty much sound the way I sound in my own head now. I kind of know what my own voice sounds like. It took me a while to get used to it because it sounded like somebody different talking. But it's not, it's just me. Two tornadoes? Well, that sucks. Holy shit, 7 grams of dried mushrooms without learning about it. Calcifer, how are you? I'm puffing on Blue Dream tonight. Both my hash oil and my actual weed is Blue Dream. Yeah, I've got a nectar collector and I got my straw with me or whatever you call that. So I will do a dab as well. Get the night started. Get the night kicked off. So I don't think I'll buy another one of those candy bars. I think if I ate the whole thing, it would probably be like eating an eighth because an eighth is a pretty solid fucking trip. You're not like tripping balls necessarily, but you have a pretty fucking intense trip off of an eighth. And I feel like I'm about halfway there, and I've eaten 6/15ths of the bar, so not quite half of the bar is in me right now. If I ate the whole thing, it would probably feel similar to maybe eating like an eighth of mushrooms. So paying $45 for a candy bar, or I could go pay $25 and get the eighth, you know, of the mushrooms. I'll just get the eighth and make tea out of it. Although I still would have to pay shipping and everything, so it would come to like $35 or something. I'm still debating whether or not to make the road trip down to DC. I looked at an alternative route tonight rather than going down the highway and going down I-95 and all that bullshit. If I just hop on 97, it's almost literally a straight line due south. If you find the White House on the map and you draw a line due north, it'll almost cross through my property. Um, and so if I get on 97 and just head south, it will take me almost to the front door of this dispensary, and it is 58 miles away if I go that direction. And that's about a block from the White House. If I go down the highway, it's 63 miles. But both ways, say one says like an hour and 47 minutes, and the other one, the slightly shorter way, is like an hour and 38 minutes. So I could get there in, you know, an hour and 45 minutes, be there for 20 minutes, you know. So I'm still looking at almost a 5 hour round trip, 4.5 hour round trip. We'll see. Yeah, it was the tray bars. I'll actually run upstairs and get the bar out of the refrigerator and show it to you. I've never gotten extracts from any other state, Christopher. How are you doing this evening? Ooh, tobacco and weed. That's so gross. Yeah, 6 squares is a pretty nice trip. Again, I'm not getting a ton of visuals, but when I was outside today and the sun was shining and the flowers and the butterflies and everything, and the trees moving, and you get all the parallax, the different layers of trees moving in different directions with the wind blowing and everything. I was digging it. There's a lot going on out in my yard. Was I seeing rainbows and shit melting and stuff like that? No, not even approaching that kind of trip. But like I said, before I got started, I was having all kind of issues of walking around in my slippers, and it felt weird, and I had to change them out. And eventually, I just gave up on trying to wear my slippers because they were weirding me out. I put 2 different pairs of drawers on before I was comfortable with the way I felt. And then, as much as I hated putting this fucking t-shirt on, because I really, really hate wearing cotton t-shirts, I did it for the fucking troops. It's it's my Pink Floyd Dark Side shirt. I'm on mushrooms tonight, so it seems appropriate. But yeah, so yeah, 6 squares is a pretty nice trip. I would call this a day at the beach. All right, let's see where I was. I got mine was the milk chocolate. I didn't get the cookies and cream or any. They got like 7 different flavors of candy bars. Shirley. Well, they're not legal here. We just get them in the fucking mail nowadays. I can buy any goddamn thing I want through the mail, and somebody will ship it to me from some other state. I don't even have to get it from like some weird overseas shady ass, Chinese fucking pharmacy or something. I can get it, some the mushrooms came out of some place in Texas, Plano, Texas. So I don't know if mushrooms are legal in Texas, but there's a fucking mushroom factory. The bars themselves were made in San Francisco, and then they shipped out of the Trey House or Tree House, however you pronounce that, which is in Plano, Texas. And I don't know why they gave me a shipping number. As of last night, today is day 3 from the day I ordered it, and I paid $11, and it was supposed to be a 1, 2, 3 day delivery. And so this morning was going to be day 3. And when I went to bed last night, it said that a label has been created, but the Postal Service is still waiting to pick up the package. And I thought either they're going to grab it last night and fucking run it here, or like, what the fuck? And I was all ready to Karen out this morning with somebody. I was going to write a really nasty fucking email, demand my money back, et cetera, et cetera. But I thought, you know what? Before I do that, let's look at the tracking. And I checked the tracking and it said out for delivery. Like, what the fuck? It went from like they hadn't picked it up yet last night to out for delivery this morning. Did it really come from Plano, Texas last night from 11 p.m.? It hadn't even been picked up by the Postal Service at 11 p.m. last night when I checked last. Apparently not, because when I got up this morning, it was out for delivery. Fuckers. All right, trying to get caught up with comments here. Hang on a minute, I'll get you moved to the next tank. You want to take a dab, but you got to drive somewhere. What's that got to do with anything? I take dabs while I'm driving. No, I don't know if there's a legal driving limit with THC, and I don't know how they could possibly test that anyway. They usually go by like the officer's judgment on whether you were driving erratically or not. They've never really been able to square that circle of how do you test somebody for marijuana on the side of the road. It doesn't work like other drugs. I could have smoked yesterday and what are you going to take a piss test to see if I got it in my system? Of course I got it in my system. I smoked yesterday. Doesn't mean I'm high now. Like, and so there's no way you can really do that test. And so that's always been a little bit of an oddball one. And they go with the sort of umbrella term of driving while intoxicated, and they can just say, look, based on his behavior, based on, what I noticed as a professionally trained police officer, I noticed the way his eyes were moving this way and that way, and so I deduced that he was on some, they don't have to prove it's marijuana or any other drug. They can just say you were driving under the influence of some type of drug, and that's it if they want. So it's always been a little bit of it's one of those things. Anytime it's up to the officer's discretion, I am extremely wary of it. Exactly. Steer with my knee, spark it up with my hands. My eyes don't get too fucked up when I smoke. They don't really get squinty and they don't really get red. No, I haven't had any more weed whacker guy experiences. I forgot all about weed whacker guy for a minute. No, I haven't had any. I haven't even been back to that property yet. I got to go back, start sometime next week. I'll get all that area wrapped up again. So I got my check and everything from the customer, and I've never heard anything from her about it. But again, I also had nothing to do with any of that. The dude just came up and started bitching at me with the assumption that I was the owner, in his words, of the workers that were there. So maybe the actual owner of the company, the landscape company that did have his employees there, maybe he's gotten some shit from them, or my customers, contacted him and said, look, you can't have these guys here doing that anymore, or whatever. I don't know. But I don't think I'm going to hear any more about that one. Yeah, it doesn't matter, Christopher. Like I said, all you got to do is just get it through the mail anyway. All right, while you're looking at that, I will. No, I won't. I'll do it when we're ready to sit down. That candy bar showed up today, and it came in a box. It came wrapped in like a bubble wrap, sort of shiny, supposed to be like a thermal insulator, which to some degree it would be. But it also had like a freezer pack in the box with it, and the freezer pack was downright warm, like bathwater warm. The box was warm. It had been sitting in my black mailbox that had been sitting in the sun. So I don't know. I thought, oh God, I'm not opening a puddle of goo here. So I stuck the whole bar in the refrigerator for about 15 minutes before I opened it up. And it's neatly packaged and everything. And then it's broken in again to 15 squares. It's like the sort of like you think about the old school Hershey bar that had the little rectangular squares, or, little rectangular segments that you could break into pieces. It's like that. Except it's just plain. There's no logo on it. There's no ornamentation or anything. And it's not bad chocolate. It's, if I gave it to you, you would think it was just like a non-name brand chocolate. Or it's better than that Palmer's chocolate you get around the Easter, the really cheap chocolate from Palmer's. It's better than that. And no mushroomy flavor in any way. Again, if I gave it to you and said, here, have a piece of chocolate, you'd just eat it thinking you had a piece of milk chocolate. Nothing would indicate that you had just eaten mushroom chocolate. So in those regards, it might be worth paying a little extra for it, as opposed to just getting the actual raw mushrooms, which are not fun to eat in more ways than one. Oh, thank you, Laura. Yeah, I was happy with almost everything I got from the IE 420 meds. And the only thing I got that I wasn't happy with was something that was one of those, like, that's priced so cheap, it's like too good to be true. And it kind of was. The only native fish I still have, I believe I've got from back in the day, I believe I still have one last hanger on of a Gambusia. Although now that I'm looking, I'm thinking maybe he's gone too by now. I do have some of those minnows. I got them, caught them wild. Got some in my big 125, and I have a few in the 40 we're going to be looking at in a couple of minutes. But that's all I've got as far as native fish go anymore. Is a Dubai chocolate bar at 7-Eleven for $26. All right. Yeah, I don't know anything about shipping fish, so I'm not going to put my 2 cents in there. I tried it once or twice back in the day, and both times the fish showed up dead. So, well, the only time I actually shipped a fish and it lived was I shipped it. I had the House of Tropicals bag it up for me, and I shipped it in a big box, and it cost like $80 to ship it. Well, it was a fairly large fish, but it was in like a gallon of water in a big fucking bag. And when I took it to House of Tropicals, they filled the bag with pure oxygen and packaged it and put it in a big box and sealed it and all that kind of stuff. So it was a 2 foot by 2 foot box that weighed 15 pounds or some shit. Maybe not 15 pounds, but it weighed quite a lot. It probably had over a gallon of water in it. So yeah, it might have been getting close to 15 pounds with the fish and the weight of the box and the packing material and everything. Maybe 10 pounds of water. I have no idea what Dubai chocolate is, so that you guys are kind of losing something on. I think the comments are kind of losing something on me because I don't know what you're talking about. Is it just like chocolate that came from Dubai? Like when we talk about like Belgian chocolates that were made in Belgium and imported, and they're really expensive because they're super handmade, delicious chocolates. Are we talking about something like that coming out of Dubai? Hey, Braden, I do still have my Raphael. Oh, it's a brand. Okay. No, I've never heard of it. Well, if I was to subscribe with this treehouse or whatever, however you pronounce it, I think it's treehouse. I think there's a line over the E. So it's spelled TRE. I would pronounce that tray, but it has a line over the E, and I think it's supposed to be a play on words or a little pun or something, and it's really treehouse. But whatever the fuck they call themselves, if I subscribe, and get say one a month or one every 3 weeks, however I want to set up the subscription, I will get 25% off. So it takes the price of the candy bar down to $26 instead of 35, and I get free shipping. So that'll save me another $11. So I would be getting the candy bar for just $26 flat, no shipping fee or anything. So $26 for this candy bar. If I can get one trip like this and then another one that's even more intense than this, because remember I did 6 bars today or 6 squares today, and I've got 9 squares left. So I could really have another more intense trip than this if I wanted. And so that's not too bad. 2 good solid trips off of $26. I thought about their vape stuff, and I decided that that's probably not even worth trying. It's probably like if you vaped everything that was in the entire pod, you were getting the equivalent of like half a gram of mushrooms or something. It'd be something like that. I think you'd have to just sit there and puff on it and puff on it and puff on it and puff on it until you felt sick before you started getting enough in you to really start feeling like you were tripping. But I don't know if anybody's had any experience with one of their disposable mushroom vape pens. Let me know, because I'd like to try it. I just don't want to spend $55 plus shipping to get one. Well, for $26, it better be some really good chocolate or have mushrooms in it, one or the other. Yeah, it sounds like it's overpriced if it's just got pistachios and creams and stuff in it. Yeah, exactly. I'll take the gram of shatter over time for another monkey. No, I'm definitely not gonna be eating any more chocolate tonight, if that's what you're saying. Um, since I've got you all here, and there's only 20 of you here, which is pretty good for a Friday night these days. Um, yeah, I kind of think the vapes are probably not worth it, especially for that price. And it doesn't have anything else in it. It's not like a nicotine vape with a hint of mushroom or anything like that. It's just like a mushroom microdose. You're supposed to just puff on it, and again, I don't know. And there's nothing on the package that I read that gives me any indication of what is this an equivalent of just dried mushrooms. Is this the rough equivalent of an eighth in this candy bar? Is it a rough equivalent of 2 grams in this candy bar? It doesn't say. It just gives you a guideline on how many squares to eat and where it thinks it's going to put you. And again, I call it fairly accurate. Um, I've had an interesting week. I've tripped almost every day this week on mushrooms, and it's been more therapeutic than recreational. It really has. My depression is almost gone. Like, I haven't felt this non-depressed in fucking years. My racing thoughts have calmed down. I've been sleeping better. I haven't been eating as much snack food and candy and junk. It's been remarkable. Like, I feel like a different person. I feel like a new man after this last week. It's been strange. So I've actually been thinking about this whole experience very differently. Up until this week, every time I've ever tripped, it's always been hard. It's always been like an eighth of mushrooms or a whole hit of acid. You know, I've never done these like mild functional trips where I can, maintain and talk and have conversations and do things. Usually I'm a gibbering mess if I'm really tripping hard. So tonight's borderline. I wouldn't want to be tripping much harder than this and still try to do a live stream. Shrooming near me. I am not so much interested in microdoses because if I understand the way a microdose works, a microdose should be something that's such a low dose you don't even notice you've done it. You shouldn't really feel a microdose. And, I mean, I guess that would be all right. But if I'm going to eat mushrooms, I want to fucking feel like I'm eating mushrooms. It's nice to be like it's, again, I relate this. This is the equivalent in alcohol terms to like having a couple of beers. It's just nice and relaxed. I feel good. I'm definitely feeling the effects of it. But, you know, it's just a nice, relaxed, and enjoyable evening. You start having 6 or 7 beers, that's more like eating a whole fucking eighth and, crawling around on the floor to look at the little bugs and stuff. All right, Laura, you get some sleep. So anyway, I was getting ready to say before I wandered off on a tangent about my candy bar. Um, I've made some changes to the channel this week. I changed the name, as a lot of you have probably seen, to Dan's Den. I did that in response both to something I've been wanting to do for a while, which is sort of try to break away from being a just straight up fish keeping channel. And I also did have a viewer express concern about this not real, like, what the fuck am I watching here? This is supposed to be a fish keeping channel. I get it. I understand, especially when my name is Everyday Fish Keeping and there's a big banner of a fish tank and so on and so forth. You might not expect to tune into what you might be hearing about on one of my live streams. And so I decided to change the name. My wife came up with the idea of Dan's Den. I told her I wanted it to be something, that would be, I don't know. I don't want to like push away the idea of all the fish keeping videos out there. That's my bread and butter. People watching my old fish keeping videos. It's not like I'm earning money off of these live streams necessarily. I'm just trying to keep the channel active and have fun on my live streams. The money comes from all the views on the 5,000 or 6,000 other fish keeping videos I have that are out there floating around getting watched. So Dan's Den works all the way around. You can either think of the old man, smoking a pipe in his den, reading a newspaper, or I could be a, middle-aged guy in my den with my fish tanks, or it could be more of a, den of iniquity and that sort of thing, a den of pleasures and so on and so forth. So you can take it however you want, and then when you tune in and start listening, you can decide whether you want to keep hanging out or not. Oh, I'm totally reaching in there and getting that big floating piece of cyanobacteria. Let me put my iced tea down. Oh, is it gone? No, I still see it. Hang on. Watch out, everybody. That was not only the Java moss, but Java moss all covered in cyanobacteria. So that was a good score pulling that out of there. Oh, there's a big piece right in the front again, too, but I'm going to leave that alone because it just got swooshed down to the bottom. All right, let's move on to the next tank. And the other thing I did with my channel this week is I went back and I deleted all my backlogs of live streams except for last week's members stream, which was a doozy. So if you want to hear some wacky stuff about my past and so on and so forth, you can become a member and watch last week's members live stream. I do one every Wednesday night at 8. It's $2.99 a month for membership if you're interested. So I left that one intact. If anybody wants to go back and watch it, any current members or whatever. And I left the Epic Marathon 6-hour Saturday night live stream last week. I left that one there. All the other live streams, my whole back catalog has been deleted. And I'm just kind of looking at this as the reset button. We changed the name today, and now we're going to be moving forward as Dan's Den rather than Everyday Fish Keeping. I'm personally not crazy about the name, but if it works, it works. I don't give a fuck what it's called. That's I'm somewhere in between you guys, Christopher. I get the idea of like if I'm going to eat mushrooms, I want to fucking feel the fact that I've eaten mushrooms. I want everything to look really cool. I want to think about the world differently. But at the same time, I can see I just, I genuinely don't really at this point have a desire to really like trip balls at this point. I may if I get an opportunity. But right now, what I think of as these sort of buzz trips, these mild trips, these has been a lot of fun. It really has, and it's done wonders for my brain. My own private brain care specialist is no longer needed. All right, I'm all caught up. The only live stream I ever really bother to pop into is Shirley's once in a while. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't really know who else's channels I would want to be a part of their live stream. I don't know anybody else. Just like you're saying, a lot of people don't know me. I don't know them, and so I don't know about their live streams. But I do know I've got some Blue Dream. I made a batch today, and I very wisely only put a little bit in the cup here. The rest of it's in the other room. This will allow me to have a little working amount of it so I don't overdo it. Well, I probably will still overdo it, but I'll overdo it less when I do it this way. See, I overdid it. That was a big ass hit. The other thing about joining other people's live streams, and I know you don't mean, going on camera and physically joining like that, but just, joining in with the chat like you guys here are. Um, I don't know the other people there either. So it's either make small talk and get to know people and whatnot, which I'm not particularly interested in, or talk about, make the kind of jokes I would normally make and say the kind of things I would normally say, which usually results in the proverbial needle across the fucking record. It ruins the vibe of the conversation. Like, I can fucking wreck a room fast. Just come in and say a few things, and I can just completely throw a live stream out of kilter because I'm just being me and just chatting. I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'm not trying to make inappropriate comments, but either I just say nothing or I do the idle chit chat, which I hate, or I wreck the live stream by making inappropriate jokes and whatnot, because that's what I find funny, and I say the things I think are funny. So that's why I generally don't do other people's live streams. Do I have you guys? I've got you guys on top messages this whole time. Let me switch over to all messages and see if I'm missing anything. Oh, I'm missing all kinds of stuff. I apologize to anybody if I missed your comment earlier. I've had it on top comments since we started. And I don't know why, being that it's my fucking live stream, it just doesn't default to all the comments. It only shows me like the popular ones. And I don't know why it chooses some to be popular and others not to be. So I apologize if I missed your comment. If you asked me something and I didn't answer, then please feel free to re-ask. A lot of people just stumble across the live stream and they just say, "What's this?" and start watching, and then they're just drawn in, and it's just they have a good time and they watch it. I had a lot of people say, like, "I don't even keep fish." Laura doesn't keep fish. Laura keeps terrariums, not fish. She's been a member for years, and she hangs out because she has fun just hanging out. It's not about the fish and the fish keeping anymore. It's just about hanging out with me on a Friday night or whatever. And again, you got to be a certain kind of person to want to hang out with me on a Friday night. No, I just think of this angelfish here as my smoky angelfish, and it's not like a panda or a koi. Like, I call it smoky just because that's what it looks like to me. The way it's got those dark markings and sort of that silvery blue body. When it changes angle, it glints and the color patches move around and change. It's a really fucking cool angelfish. Mushrooms or no, it's extra super cool now that I'm looking at it here. But it was just a mixed veil angelfish from PetSmart. I've got an eye for picking out sharp looking fish that I know are going to grow up into be real lookers. I know that's not difficult to do with angelfish, but I saw that one and I said, ooh, ooh, ooh. And it came home with me, and I've had it ever since. So I think of that as my smoky angelfish, but it doesn't have an actual name, and it doesn't have a real identification name either. It's just a mixed veil. Oh, that sounds cool, Kane. Nice, smooth yet manly tones. Christopher, I can't tell you how many times over the years in conversations with people sometimes that I've known for a long time, workers, coworkers and stuff like that, when I would say something about weed at some point, because I long ago decided I wasn't going to treat weed like it was some terrible secret, dirty secret that I had because I was doing something bad. And I never have, but I don't necessarily wouldn't go around advertising it either. And so, and invariably, when people would find out that I smoked weed, especially like when I was in massage school, people were like, "You smoke pot?" And I was like, "Oh, you have no idea," And they're like, "You?" It just it's not so prevalent anymore, but fucking Cheech and Chong, I hate those two motherfuckers for what they did to the weed world. Their influence of the dumb moron burnout stoners, Jeff Spicoli is another one, although he's the greatest fucking character in the history of all movies. Um, just that idea of marijuana, the loser on his couch at 35 years old sitting in his mom's basement playing video games, like that stereotype. I've just refused to allow that stereotype to be the stereotype. So since I'm not that guy and I'm not a moron, and I can have a conversation with somebody, and then they find out that I also smoke marijuana, it blows people away. Again, not so much anymore. Um, but it's always been like that for me. People thinking like, you smoke weed? Yeah, it doesn't. Like, what do you think it's stupid juice? Like, it doesn't rot your brain. I came up with a theory long ago, and I think it's a good one. Well, a hypothesis, we'll say. I think there's just a lot of really stupid people in the world, and since so many people smoke weed, if you just throw a rock, you're going to hit somebody that's both stupid and smokes weed. There's not necessarily a correlation there, though. If you took the weed out of the scenario, they'd still be a stupid person. And, so I think that's just it. You just run into so many dumb people, and they just also happen to smoke weed, that people just put the correlation, oh, he must be dumb because he smokes the weed. That's my theory. Hypothesis. All right, Christopher, I'll have a look. Nice. Kane, if you join the channel for $2.99 a month, far less than a cup of coffee. Hey, Zini. Oh, Zini's back. Where did Zaphod go? I like Zini better. If you join the channel, Kane, for $2.99 a month, you will get access to my Discord server. And on the Discord server, you can post all the pictures and videos and stuff you want of your grows and your grow rooms. We have a whole section for marijuana over there. So do that if you're interested, and we will all get to see them. All right, I am caught up. So let's move on to the next tank. Because it's almost 9 o'clock, and I want to just get to the point where I can sit down and stop thinking about moving the camera every so often. My sense of time has been really fucking distorted today, too. Surprise. I'm pretty good at keeping a sense of time while smoking weed. I just do it so much. Again, it's just for me smoking weed, I do it more than I drink coffee, and that's a lot. But I'm pretty good at keeping track of time. I go hiking in the woods or out on my kayak or whatever, and I can say, it must be getting to be about 5 o'clock or whatever, and I'll check, and it's 10 of or 10 after. So I'm pretty good at doing that. But today I've just been all kind of out of whack. Felt like I was sitting outside for a long time. I went inside. It's been like 12 minutes or something since the last time I looked at the clock. I was like, all right, well, that was weird. And I went back outside, sat down. Then I sat down for a little while, half an hour or something like that, before I got it, wandered around again. But while I was waiting for the time to tick down for the live stream to start, I sat down. I came down here and sat down at 6 p.m. and then just fucking fidgeted for 2 hours while I waited for the live stream to start. I mean, I listened to music and I tinkered with my weed a little bit. I actually did a little bit of work in a couple of fish tanks. But I just kind of fidgeted and waited until it was time to go live. Oh, I also got my other tank fixed. Let's go have a look at that real quick while I'm thinking about it. So the one tank that was in here already leaked. Say hello to Uma, everybody. And so I found another old 10-gallon tank I had, and I replaced it. And so all I have in there is a couple of pieces of wood. Both of those pieces of wood do have Java moss on them. I picked as much off as I could, but the idea that I picked all of it off is just impossible. So there will be some Java moss growing in there at some point, and I'm going to put shrimp in it, I think. I haven't looked in here yet this afternoon. I don't know if anybody needs water or not. It doesn't look like it. This tent is looking really fucking good. There's one way back in the corner that I just put in yesterday, and it's going to top out about the same height as the rest of these. So the one right here, this has got about a month left, maybe 3 weeks. And each one in there is about a week apart. So I still have about 3 weeks to a month before we get our first harvest out of there. And that's all I've really got that's worth looking at the moment. Got a few in here. So far, this tent still looks bug-free, but it's missing a spot because I pulled one out of here. I found mites on it again. So if it was on that one, it's probably on those others. But they're coming along nicely. And then I took the one that has the mites on it and I put them over here because this tent always, I don't know why, but this tent always has mites on the plants in it at some point. So I use the plants that I grow in here to make hash oil out of. This one here in the middle is the one that just came out of the tent we were just looking at. So that's almost done. That's got like 3 weeks left. The other two are in much more recently. But it's coming along. By the end of the summer, I should have plenty of weed. We ain't there yet, but we're getting close. All right, let's get the discus tank fed, and that will be everybody. And let's throw some granules in there tonight. Where was right? I fucking love Jeff Spicoli. Two more truckloads, nice. There's a lot of fish tanks. To reach up to get that tent zipped, I forgot about my damn arm. I can't do that, and that really hurt. Now I'm sore. All right, let's keep working on this bowl. Give you guys a little while to enjoy the view without me. Then you'll get the view with me. All right, what else do I want to talk about? Well, as long as he doesn't acquire the one ring, he'll never get his full power back. Or his glove. Or the jewels that go in the glove. I don't know how any of that stuff works. Well, I mean, I know how the one ring works. I don't know how the Thanos glove works. I know all too well how the one ring works. Fucker. Infinity stones, that's what they are. Or infinity stone iron. I like that better. If you want leeks, Zini, I've got a 10-gallon fish tank out on my back porch for you. It was on its way to the trash can, but if you want it, I will get it to you. All right, let me come around there and get seated down. I think I've got everything I'm going to need once I've sat down. I probably don't, but I think I do. And that's all that matters. Ugh. Starting to yawn again. Oh, God damn, this arm hurts. All right, that looks about right. Is that good? I don't know. That don't look right to me, but that's okay. Maybe I got you up too high. That'll work. Oh, you got your glass spacer now? Nice. The only thing I did this evening, coming in here before the live stream got started, I cleaned the glass on the gourami tank. There was weird patches that had like really thick hair algae growing on them, and then the rest of the glass was relatively clean. And so I just kind of scrubbed away where the thick algae was, but it was definitely hair algae, and you could tell it had been sort of shorn down by the gouramis and whatnot nibbling on it. So it was like that long, but it was hair algae. It was definitely hair algae. And so I got a lot of that cleaned up. And then I did one other thing. I don't remember what it was now. Oh, I cleaned off the intake on the pond so that the water could flow more freely rather than the way it was flowing earlier this evening because it was barely coming out of there. Before I forget, I need to go throw some food in the fish tank or in the shrimp tank too. So you all come up with something to talk about, and I'll go drop some food in the shrimp tank real quick. Oh, I'll run upstairs. I'll get that candy bar, and I'll show you what that looks like. So that is the bar. It's actually not very big. And if you look at the dosing right there, if it will, I guess you get the idea. 1 to 3, 4 to 6, 7 plus. I'm at 6. And it's just looks like little squares of chocolate. And no, I'm not breaking any more off and eating it. I got plenty going on right now as it is. I don't need any more. No, I'm not going to start eating more this time of night anyway. If this was 6 o'clock, maybe. I'm going to put this back in the refrigerator. It was really soft when I got it, and it feels like it's a soft chocolate, so I don't want it sitting in the 80-degree basement. And it tastes really good, too. I'm not kidding. You would not have any notion at all there was mushrooms or anything in that chocolate. It just tastes like a chocolate bar. So it's pretty yummy. I got a T-Rex arm, everything with my left arm. As long as I work from my elbow, I don't engage my shoulder in any way. I can do this just fine. I just can't engage my shoulder. Sucks getting old. All right, was there anybody I need to know about? Okay. I don't need to react to that right now. Shirley's back. James, how are you? What kind of floating plants do I have? At the moment, all I have floating is duckweed, I think. I got some floating water sprite in my 20 here, and that's it. I probably have a few pieces of that frog bit you gave me somewhere, but that didn't really do well. It didn't take off at all. I was surprised. And I'm doing well, James. Thank you for asking. Milk chocolate indeed. 20 would be tripping really hard. All right, I'm all caught up. You guys are going to have to work with me here to some degree. I'm checking some comments now. Hang on. Oh. I have a squirrel named Stumpy. Or if you're my wife, his name is Mr. Stubbs. Tank Road. I'm not sure where Tank Road is. I know where Water Tank Road is. And I'm up near the northern branches of the Patapsco myself. Hey, TK. Yeah, Mr. Stubbs is better. Anyway, we have a squirrel that has a tail that has been chomped off. and I don't know what got to it. I don't know if it was one of my cats. It's possible. When we first saw it, it's the whole back of its tail from like maybe that far from its butt was fluffy, and then it was just this bloody, wiry looking, just the bony part. Eventually, the bloodiness went away, and it was just white. And then eventually, the white part wasn't even there, and he was just left with this little piece. It's a big fluffy squirrel tail, but it's only that long. It looks closer to a rabbit's tail than a squirrel's tail at this point. So one of my cats could have got it. They get squirrels from time to time, and they get birds all the time. So I feel a little bit bad. We put out bird feeders and stuff, and then we have cats. So the cats do get birds at the bird feeders occasionally. I feel like I'm baiting them in just for the cats, but not really. So where is Tank Road? Because I'm up here in Carroll County, northern Carroll County, up in Hampstead. And I don't know what Tank Road you're talking about. Most of the stuff I've got in my tanks, if it hasn't come right from my yard, some of it has come from a little stream across the street from my house. And then a lot of it, especially the rocks, have come from a little stream called Graves Run. And it's just there's this one place I can park. It's a little bit of a walk if you're carrying a bunch of big rocks and stuff. But you get down to it, and it's just like this rocky stream bed with just a quarter mile of just amazing, all kinds of different rocks. Just it's I've been back there with a bucket many times, and so most of the rocks you see in most of my tanks came from that little stretch of the river. Not all of them, but a lot of it did. The ones I feel the worst about is our little crazy girl, the insane one. Um, she's really fast when she wants to be, and on a couple of occasions, she has actually shot straight up in the air from underneath of the hummingbird feeder, and she's taken out two hummingbirds. So that's a little that's a little depressing. But hummingbirds are vicious bastards anyway. They'll kill each other and kill each other's babies and everything else. So again, it's a vicious world out there. I don't get involved too much. I put out food for the birds. They don't have to eat it. If they don't want it, they want it. There's risks involved. They're willing to take it. That's up to them. But I do make the food available for them free of charge if they would like it. All right, everybody. It's going to be another dead night. I'm down to 12 people and nobody's talking. So I'll wrap it up if you guys don't want to hang out. I can go do I can do anything tonight because I got a long night ahead of me. I'm like Bird Saw. Oh, like the movie Saw. I've never seen any of the movies. I was watching a podcast today, and they were describing a scene in Godfather, and then they said something about it. You've seen Godfather. I don't need to finish explaining that. And I was like, I haven't seen Godfather. I even typed that into the comments. Like, no, I have not seen Godfather. Don't you fucking put your assumptions on me, assuming I've seen Godfather. I have not seen that. Nor do I ever expect to. I know it's supposed to be a great movie and whatnot, but I don't know. It don't seem like my kind of cup of meat. All right, everybody. Cheers. Remember, smoking a Blue Dream. I might know where you're talking about. Hey, James. For my tanks, I don't know what that means, but all right. Did I miss a comment somewhere? Okay, let me look up Tank Road. I might know where you're talking about. There's a whole area that I think of in my mind. I think of it as Little West Virginia. There's a bunch of little twisty, turny, windy roads and hills and houses plopped on sides of hillsides all over the place, and it just seems very West Virginia like. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I actually like West Virginia. All right, let's open up maps again and look up Tank Road. North Branch, Patapsco. Yeah, that's exactly where I thought it was. Wesley Road. I actually went back there not long ago looking for a place I could put my kayak in, and I never did find a good spot to do it. There used to be, I don't remember exactly which road it was, but you'll. Oh no, I don't want to do that. Hang on. Almost closed up the live stream instead of the other open tab. There was a place that I used to go back there, and I don't remember exactly how I got there. I would come down Houcksville Road, and I would wind around, and eventually I would come down. I'd cross over a fairly modern concrete bridge right over the Tapsco River, make a left on some rinky-dink ass road that like it came down. There's like a big fork, a big hill comes down, and then it comes up. And then right there is the bridge. If you make a left and go down, there's another bridge. And I used to park at that bridge, and there's like some buildings and stuff, and there's a house right there on the corner. I used to walk down there and catch trout out of the stream right there. And I went down there about a month ago, and they got all these no trespassing signs all over the fucking corner now because I knew, kind of always knew I was standing in somebody's backyard, or assumed I was standing in somebody's backyard, but it's like away from the house, and it wasn't quite like standing in somebody's backyard. And I used to pull trout out of there. It was really cool. And then we could park across the street and then just walk down the riverside. And all that's blocked off now. There's no more parking area down there. And so that kind of pissed me off. That was a bummer. I was actually looking forward to seeing if I could catch some trout down there again this year, but I can't fish in any of that. So I'm assuming you know where I'm talking about. Well, I've shown a few creeks on the channel, but normally the one across the street from me, we usually go down the street about a half a mile from the house, but it literally runs right across the street in my neighbor's front yard. But I've never actually done anything in that neighbor. I do have a neighbor up that way with my little T-Rex arm, and they'll let me go and do crayfishing and stuff like that on their property. But I could do that. There's other places I could do it. I just haven't been interested. Like I said, I just don't have the tanks for it. I don't have the room for it. And so I'm not too worried about putting native fish back in my tanks. I did miss your question, Ark. Let me scroll back and see what you said. Oh, no, I answered your question. I've got duckweed right now. I've got a little bit of water sprite floating in this tank, and I may have a small piece or two of the frog bit that you gave me. It didn't really do well. It didn't take off anywhere. And a lot of times when I was skimming the duckweed out, some of the frog bit got thrown into the goldfish pond where it gets eaten. And so I don't know for sure if I have any of the frog bit left, but the only floating plants I really have now is duckweed and a little bit of water sprite in this 20 right here. Oh, I almost reached for the camera. That would have been disastrous. That would have hurt. Oh, God damn it. How are you loose again? So this is water sprite in here. Hang on. Let me... Hey, Mary. I've tried water lettuce before with no success. It always would drop all the roots. You get the water lettuce, and it's got those gorgeous, like chandelier-like roots. And within a day or two, all the roots would just go brittle and fall off, and then they get the filter all clogged. And then the water lettuce would just start wilting, and eventually it would just die off. I never was able to do anything with the water lettuce. Duckweed is one of those, as you know, you probably don't need warning. Once you got it, it's really tough to get rid of. Um, you've already got the frog bit. Obviously, you gave it to me. And then I like the water sprite. I know you can plant it, and I never have. I don't know why I never have, but I've never planted my water sprite. I've always floated it because I think it looks awesome floating. It actually floats upright. It lays across the surface. It does the nice roots. You'll even get shoots that grow up and out of the water if it's floating long enough and you allow it to get big enough. So that's probably my favorite floating plant. And I don't think I've tried any others. I don't count my lily pads as being floating plants. I think my problem with the water lettuce is just not enough light. I don't know if there's like water lettuce you can get that's just for your aquarium, and then there's different stuff you get for your pond. But most outdoor ponds get a lot of sun. And that's what I assume, every time I've ever bought it at a store, I always bought it at like a garden center kind of store in the summer, and they have it in their outdoor tubs and they have it in the sun. And that's what they sell it for. If you do like a summer tub with mosquito fish and a little water fountain and that sort of thing, you can throw some of that in there. And I've tried to do it in here. I've tried to do it in the pond, and I've tried to do it even underneath of my floodlights before, thinking that might be enough light for it. But I've never, possibly my water's too soft. Maybe that's got something to do with it. I don't know. But I've never had luck with the water lettuce. Oh, well, there you go. That would explain it because I don't really have any buffer in my tanks. Brown Embrook, nice. Clover? Interesting. Might have to try that. Throw up my goldfish tank, see how long it takes them to eat it. I don't have any secret spots for catching fish. I just told you about the one place I used to go, and that was maybe once every other summer I would go down there. It's kind of a pain in the ass. I've never really known how to get there. I always kind of just go down into that area and all those little windy, crisscrossy roads, and I usually come across it eventually. Um, so there's that. Another spot you might want to try. They just finished refurbishing the bridge on 91. And if you're heading north on 91, if you're heading towards 30, right before you get to the bridge, there's a little road. You go over there, and there's a little parking area right by the river. And there's either a path that goes down at an angle, or there's a set of steps that goes down right to the water. And you can go down there, and it's wading knee-deep, shallow water. You can fish down through there. You can find various specimens, plants, rocks, all kinds of shit. That's like a semi-public area. That's not in a state park or anything like that. And it's, if you actually keep following the river down far enough, it parallels 140. all the way down to where the headwaters of Liberty start. It hangs a right and goes underneath the 140 and turns into Liberty Reservoir. So you could check that out on 91, and that's an easy spot to get to where you just walk right down to the river and start finding stuff. Where's another good spot to do that kind of stuff? Oh, if you go out, there's Big Pipe Creek. If you go out 140 towards Tawnytown, and then go out on the old Tawnytown Pike, the little 2-lane back road. If you get off of 140, where the place for Bulgars is, and you go up the little back road, you'll cross over that little stream back there. There's a couple areas you can park and walk down there. I've done some fishing and crayfish fishing back in those little streams too. So those are pretty cool spots you could check out. I would put crushed coral and limestone in the substrate if I could get black coral, because I like dark substrate. I do keep crushed coral in a pouch in my filters now. So who knows? Maybe if I did the water lettuce again, I could give it a shot and see if it works. I still don't really have enough hardness to be noticeable. I don't think. I'd probably put just enough mineralization in there to give it not really enough general hardness to matter. But if we checked my carbonate hardness, I'd probably have 2 to 4 parts, or 2 to 4 degrees carbonate hardness. In my van. Hey, Harryman, how are you? Buff water is the way. No neighbors with yards or fields nearby. Why are you asking? I've got our yard myself there, Mary. I'm not sure what you're asking me. Yeah, I always think of Chris Farley when I say down by the river too. That's what I use, Ark. I get the crushed oyster shell. I got a bag of it around here somewhere. Maybe I've used it up and I need to get some more because I don't see it now that I'm looking for it. Oh, yeah, dude, it's right here. Probably because of the last time I held it up. It says oyster shell on it, but if you actually look at it really closely, it looks like it's about 80% crushed coral and maybe 20% oyster shell, which is good. The crushed coral dissolves much more quickly than the oyster shell. Oyster shell doesn't dissolve very quickly at all. It takes a really long time for oyster shell to dissolve. Oh, you're talking to Ark about his yard? All right. Yeah, sand, that's exactly why I don't like sand. Sand is so fine and compacts so tightly that nothing goes down into it. It just lays on top of it. Like nothing goes down into it. You got to practically be like microbial to get down into sand. And so the moment any detritus is there, it's just there. It's just swirling around, floating on the bottom, and there's not a lot you can do about it except vac it out. And when you're vacuuming with sand, it's really hard to pull the stuff up and leave the sand behind because I'm not a big fan of using sand in aquariums, either natural color. I've tried that black Tahitian sand before. It's beautiful stuff. It really is. It's just problematic over time. So I just stopped using it. I really like the Eco Complete stuff that I use. It's black, but it's not like dark black. It's got more of like a dark gray appearance to it. My fake gravel in my 29, which is really like a dense foam that's spray painted or whatever, that's black. The Tahitian black sand is black. This actually has some grayness and a little bit of maybe even a hint of brown here and there into it. It's a lot more natural feel, and I like the more granular gravelly sort of appearance. And then functionally, it's just fantastic. I love it. Tanked up. How are you? Whose face are we pushing in? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Geo definitely sort some sand out. The gravel has enough space between the chunks that once that detritus actually gets broken down, if you've got a good biologically active tank with lots of oxygen in the water, good water circulation, that stuff should break down very quickly. And once it turns into mulm, which is sort of the end product of the decomposition, when it's broken down as much as it's going to break down, that stuff is so fine. It will just through gentle movement and currents and the fish swimming around, it'll just work its way down into the sand or into the gravel, and it'll just be in there. Now, at some point, all those spaces will get filled up, and you'll just have dirt in your tank basically at that point. But you can still do a lot with having gravel in the tank without having too much mess to clean up. And then if you do a pretty good vac, even I don't recommend scrunching down into the gravel when you do a gravel vac. Just do sort of superficial. But if you're picking up maybe the top quarter inch as you go around, which I don't have a problem picking up a little bit. I don't scrunch the plastic down in there because that's going to damage the roots and all that kind of stuff. But if you allow it to sort of pick some of the stuff up, it'll pull a lot of that stuff up off of the surface, and it'll sort of open up some space for more stuff to go back in next time you're in there working on the tank. So I don't suggest not gravel vacuuming. I just don't like an aggressive gravel vac. And when I say not to, I'm generally referring to the scrunching it down part. When I say not to do that, don't do that. But, vac the detritus out of there and you should be fine. It'll give you some more room for the stuff to break down later. Mom. Clean as a whistle. Yeah, I'll keep that in mind. I really like the rosy side dace. I'm not so worried about the black nose, but I do like the rosy side dace, and I would be willing to put some in my 125. So if you ever catch any and you want to hook up with me and swap out some plants or something, I'll give you some weed or something if you want. I'll take some rosy side dace. We'll throw them in the 125. They'll probably wind up all jumping out eventually because they usually do in an open top tank like that. But I'll do it. Hang on, I feel like I gotta rub the crap out of my eyes for a minute here. They're really itchy all of a sudden. All right, that's better. I think, at least for now. Oh, now I did it. I feel like I rubbed oils into my eyes. Now they're gonna start burning and watering. It's gonna be great. Tropical Fish Box, how are you? I don't actually have any zebra loaches. I have striated bodias, which a lot of people call zebra loaches, but aren't. Whenever I look up zebra loach, I see a different fish than what I've got. If I look up a striated bodia, I see the fish that I've got. And so there is a difference. I don't have the striped loaches or zebra loaches. Mine are in a 29. They've been in there for over 10 years now. They're full grown. I love them. I like any kind of loach really. The only loach I've got that I wouldn't buy again is my red tail loach. He's pretty aggressive and he's reclusive. He hides all the time. When he does come out, he's really spastic. He's cool looking, but he's not a really good addition to the tank. I don't think I'd want to have one of those again. But every other loach I've ever had, I've always thought was awesome. Yeah, what I really would like is some clown loaches that stay alive for more than a few years. I've gotten them as big as maybe 8 inches, and then they just die. They either die right away, or they do really well for several years and grow like weeds. And I'll have, again, a big 8-inch, clown loach, and then it dies. It gets that skinny loach disease and fades away. I've tried every damn thing. And I've given up on trying to keep clown loaches. Thought about putting some in the pond. I don't think they bother the goldfish or koi, and they'd have room to get pretty big in the pond. So maybe I'll give that a shot. Maybe I will throw some clown loaches in the pond and see what happens. Hey, Rob, how are you? A red-tailed sand. You get a tailed squirrel loach. That sounds cool. You got the Bodia striatum. That's probably the same thing I've got then, the striated Bodia. I have some Angelicus too, and I really like the Angelicus. And if you're going to have a clown loach that's going to grow out to full size, a 125 is a good idea. They get really big eventually. Even at 8 inches, like 55 is getting kind of small for a loach that size. But the striated Bodias, they'll stay 5 inches maybe. They'll be fine in a 30-gallon. I think, again, mine are in a 29, and they've been in there for 12 years or something, 13 years now. That's one of the things I like about the water sprite is it gets that really big chandelier mass of roots hanging down off of it, which I love. I think the underside of the plant is as attractive as the top side. God, I can't even hardly scratch my forehead. I'm beginning to think I might have something wrong with my shoulder, like wrong with it. I don't mean like I pulled something or I got a twanged muscle. My wife had a bum knee for a while. It was bothering her. And after a week or two of the pain not going away, she went to the doctor and turned out there was a torn meniscus and she needed a minor surgery to fix it. Otherwise, it just would have continued hurting. And so I don't know what the hell would be going on in my shoulder that would be causing what I've got going on in my shoulder, other than a soft tissue injury, like something that physical therapy is going to be done for. But it's getting pretty bad. And if I'm talking about possibly going to the doctor to see what they have to say about it, it's pretty bad. But my left arm is like, I wish it was 50% functional, and I'm in a lot of pain. So I can't use my left arm, and I hurt. And it's been going on for like over a week now. It sucks. I'm not sure what you're talking about either, Zini. I know if you're talking about Andre the Giant. Are we talking about Andre the Giant? I know his hands were big enough that he could put it over somebody's whole head. I do still have that shoulder, and it's bothering me more now than it was last week. Today actually feels a little better. I put it in a sling yesterday, and I did nothing with it. I literally just let my arm hang in a sling all afternoon. And today I haven't really done much with it, but since I've been down here doing the live stream, I'm working my tablet. I reach for stuff. I'm trying to adjust the camera. I'm starting to do things with it again, and it's starting to hurt again. So I need to just lay off. Probably put my sling back on. All right. Anybody got anything else they would like to chat about? I'm not chatting about Hulk Hogan. I've never been interested in wrestling. Hey, heavyweight, how are you? No, we didn't get anything. Um, my phone gave me two alerts saying that we had potential thunderstorms on the way within the next hour, and neither time did I even notice it getting particularly dark outside or anything. So I don't know if we were outside the scope or we it just went south of us or whatever, but we didn't get much anything. I had to go out this afternoon to water the plants because the yard's starting to get a little dry and droopy. It doesn't matter how much rain you get at one time. You can have a weekend that's just torrential pouring all fucking weekend. But after that, if it goes 5 days without rain, you got to get out there and start watering again. It's not like you're putting it in the bank and you're like, oh, this rain ought to last us for a little while. I shouldn't have to water the lawn for a couple of weeks after all this. But no, it just goes away and you got to get out there and water again. So it's almost as if we need some rain every few days. It sucks. But I don't mind getting out there and watering. It gives me something to do. I wouldn't worry about that. Heavyweight. Well, before I say that, why do you have the light? Is it just precautionary? Because we have a light, but I haven't replaced it in a decade. It ain't doing shit. Um, and when we moved out here, we were here for several years before we ever um, put the light in. It didn't have a bio light when we moved in, and I don't know. We were here for maybe 5 years, and I heard somebody talking about it, and it was something where you could get this, free sample, a free kit. You could test to see if you have bacteria in your water. And I followed all the instructions on the package and everything, and I made sure everything was sterile, and I wiped the whole top of the sink down with alcohol. And before I got my water sample, I followed the instructions to the T. I know how easy it is to contaminate something with bacteria or whatever. And so I did all that really carefully, got the mixture all together, shook it up, set it on the counter. And while it was sitting there, I went back to read the instructions about like how to read the test and find out what I was supposed to find out. And it said that if, over the next 24-hour period, if you get any, color darkening of the water, if it looks tan or it looks like it's, slightly tea stained or whatever, you've got bacteria in your water. And so I looked over and I made it in like 5 minutes and it was like coffee. I was like, I think we got bacteria in our water. But we've been drinking it for years. So just because we have bacteria in the water doesn't mean it was necessarily harmful to us. But we got a BioLite put in after that. But like I said, it's been probably close to a decade since I've changed it. And so it's not doing anything. Now, while you have a BioLite, if you got E. coli in your water or something like that, then yeah, I would probably consider waiting until you got your BioLite again. I don't know if E. coli affects fish or not, but if that's in your water, I wouldn't want to put it in my fish tanks. But otherwise, if it's just a precautionary thing, then you're probably fine. I wouldn't worry about it. No, I'm rolling right along on mushrooms right now, Mary. It's just not a very lively chat tonight. I don't know what to tell you. I'm struggling to keep it going till 10 o'clock. I really am. I wish people would be a little more chatty. You've been snorkeling. Nice. Am I going down the ocean this summer? I doubt it. Hey, Robert, how are you? One thing I've always wanted to do is go out to Pretty Boy and take a mask and a snorkel and just go to some of the places where the water's 15 feet deep and just crystal clear, and just swim around with a snorkel, or even take one of my GoPros on like a selfie stick so I can hold it 6 or 7 feet away from me. And I've always wanted to snorkel around and do like some underwater video and see if I can find fish and just look at all the interesting rocks and plants and everything you'll see down under the water. I just thought it would be cool to do. I don't know if I ever would really do it with the snorkeling. I think it would be cool to do it, but in reality, I probably never will do that. I just thought it would be cool. I think it's awesome that you do. I do, however, have my kayak, and I still can stick my camera on the selfie stick and hold it underwater as I'm drifting along and stuff. So maybe someday I'll get around to shooting one of those videos. I experimented once with it, but they all came out like meh. It just looked like rocks going past, and the water was cloudy, and you didn't even really see the rocks until they sort of came out of the darkness, and then were just gone again as we drifted over them. It was kind of eerie looking, but I didn't think it was worth posting on YouTube, so I never did. And then I've never messed around with it again. How's everyone doing? I'm doing all right. Well, thank you, Tanked. Which salt videos are we talking about? I've done a lot of videos about salt over the years. Yeah, I've got well water. I mean, it's when you say tap water, I assume you mean municipal water, city water. Because I get water out of my tap, but it also comes out of my ground in my backyard and gets pumped into my basement and then pumped up into my kitchen sink. So I do have tap water, but it's also well water. Oh, that's cool. I've seen the underwater drones. Well, 5 pounds of salt a day is what the doctor recommends to keep you hydrated. I am, Mary. I ate a mushroom chocolate bar tonight. Yeah, I assumed if you had a BioLite, you would have well water. I don't know anybody that's got a BioLite system set up on their municipal water. Municipal water should have chlorine or chloramine in it or something to kill any E. coli or anything like that. You shouldn't need a BioLite if you're on city water. I'm on groundwater, so God knows what might be in there. It's probably advisable to have a BioLite just to kill any bacteria or whatever cultures might be living in my water. Iodine and table salt. All right. Joking aside, do you know that 2 tablespoons of salt at one time is enough to kill a human, an adult male, about, my weight, 200 pounds, even though I'm less than 200 pounds. I looked that up one day to find out what the toxic level of salt was. There was a trend going around for a while of a saltwater cleanse. That's the dumbest fucking shit ever on the goddamn internet. And why is it always the stupid shit that people think is, oh, that's a good idea, like raw milk? Like, let's jump on that bandwagon. But this is even dumber than raw milk. It was a saltwater cleanse, and people were taking literally tablespoons of salt and stirring them into water, and like forcing it down because that's disgusting. You don't want to drink it; it's poison. And supposedly it's supposed to do something, cleanse your fucking bowels or something. I don't know what the fuck it's supposed to do. It's a stupid idea. Don't do it. But I wanted to see what the lethal dose of salt is, because a tablespoon of salt at once is a lot of fucking salt. And if you're a petite person, you only weigh 80 pounds, a tablespoon of salt could be damn near fatal. Someone my size would die with, I think it's like 2.5 tablespoons or something like that. It's not a lot. You don't have to consume a lot of salt at once in order to die from that single dosage. So don't do a fucking saltwater cleanse. That's stupid. The more you know, right? Water in the basement sucks. We kill immortal man. I don't know if I eat more than 2 tablespoons of salt daily, but I do like my salt. And since I don't really eat any food anymore, I just mostly eat my protein drinks and stuff. Um, I get those pretzels that are super salty, and I know I'm eating them because they're super salty, and it gives me my huge amount of salt intake that I want, while also allowing me to only eat like 2 pretzels. And so I'm only getting about 100 calories, but I'm getting like a teaspoon of salt with my 2 little pretzels because they're really salty. Um, so yeah, I definitely like my salt too. Well, I don't think they would give you a saline drip if you were had done too much salt. And a saline drip is still, you want mineralization in your water. You don't want pure water either. So a saline drip isn't salt water, it's mineralized water. It's just got enough in there so that your body can tolerate it rather than pure water, which is, you don't want to put pure water in your body. You want to drink. Even if you ever look at a bottle of bottled water, more often than not, it will say public water source or PWS, which basically means it's tap water. They run it through an RODI system, and then somewhere on the label, you will see remineralized for taste. That is because pure water is rough on the tongue. It is not something you really want to drink. If you want some smoothness to it, you want it to go down easy, you got to have some minerals in there. So that would be considered saline solution. So that's why when you get an IV, it's saline. It's not pure water. It's got a little tiny bit of mineralization in it. And if you're the thing with salt is not so much that you're getting dehydrated, but it throws your electrolytes out of whack. Um, it does all, when your electric signals in your body ain't firing right, it's you're not gonna have a good time. So it's, yeah, I can see why they would give you saline if you, even if you had overdosed on salt. And I don't think they give you IVs in ambulances, do they? Well, you can drink small amounts of it. It's, if somebody drinks distilled water and they have a glass of it, it's not going to harm them or whatever. But it's not a good idea to drink large quantities of pure water like that. Yeah, I'm not used to chlorine in the water either. If I go over to my mom's house and I turn my mom's sink on, I'm just like, oh my God, it smells like pool water. I can smell the chlorine on it. My mom always uses one of those little canisters you set next to your sink and you plug the little hose into it. So when you pull the button, the water goes through and comes out in a little stream, and it removes every trace of chlorine smell. It's just like drinking just smooth, pure water when you run it through that thing. So I'd recommend getting one of those if you've got, you don't want to buy a water system, but you've got city water that's got that chlorine smell to it. Just get one of those little canisters that you put next to your sink. They really work well, and I don't think they're expensive. And you can probably buy just refill chargers for them. Excuse me, when they start wearing out, you'll start to notice the chlorine smell starting to come back. But it takes a long time if you're only using it for like drinking and cooking purposes and stuff. Um, I would definitely recommend one of those. 30 parts per million hardness. I'm not sure how, I don't know how that works. So, a little helpful hint, if you're ever stranded on a deserted island and you have to make some kind of water still or something like that, and you're distilling water and getting yourself nice pure water to drink, you want to mix that water about 3 parts pure water to 1 part ocean water. You want to put seawater in there. For one, it'll extend the amount of water you have. And for two, it will remineralize the water so you won't be drinking pure water, which under the circumstances of having limited quantities of food and you're going to be sweating out minerals and you're going to be losing salts, you're going to need salts and minerals and stuff back in your body. So you think of it like a sports drink almost. You don't want to drink the pure water when you're on the island, or if you've got a bottle of water that you've saved from the shipwreck or whatever, mix about 25% to 75% ocean water, and it'll taste fine, and it'll make your water go longer, and it'll keep you a lot healthier than the pure water will. So once again, now you know. That happens to somebody sometime. If you're stranded anywhere and there's a saltwater body nearby, you want to add salt. Yeah, I would imagine you'd have to eat a lot of fucking potatoes to OD on potassium. I think you'd OD on potato before you'd OD on potassium. What was the other thing I wanted to mention about salt since we were talking about? Oh, sea salt. I'm getting ready to do another day. Actually, let me go in and get my bong. We'll do a bong hit. I would like to explain. I know I've explained this to some of you already, but in case you have not heard, and since we're on the topic of salt, sea salt. Do you ever wonder why you buy the salt that says this salt is fresh from the Mediterranean, and all we do is take ocean water and evaporate it away, and you've got this delicious salt? And have you ever tasted ocean water? Ocean water makes ass taste good. It's nasty. It's horrible. It's awful. If you just took ocean water and evaporated that water away, and then you used that salt, it would be absolutely disgusting. And yet we buy sea salt that sort of claims that this is right from the Mediterranean. And so how the hell is that? I wondered that for so long, and now I know, and I'm going to share that with you once I get my bong. It's actually a pretty clever way of doing it. And technically, they are correct. They're not lying. It is just salt straight from the ocean, but they do clean it. They do strip away all the other minerals that are in there, and they leave it as pure sodium chloride. And I'm going to explain how in just a moment. Should not have gone in for that second one again. So what they do is they take the water and they move it from holding pond to holding pond usually. And each holding pond, the more water evaporates away, the more the salt condenses. And eventually you get to a point where you've allowed the sun and the wind and everything to evaporate the water away completely. And you're left with all of the minerals, but you're also left with all the other stuff that's in the ocean in there as well. It's not, you don't want to go from that point to your table. So what they do is they collect up all that salt, and it's a lot of different mineral salts. Remember, salt isn't just sodium chloride. Salt is a metal and a non-metal combined, like sodium and chloride or potassium chloride. There's a bunch of different mineral salts out there that are mixed up in ocean water, plus all the other stuff, which is why it just tastes so nasty. So what they do is they take that salt and they wash it in a brine solution. And brine is water that is saturated with salt. It simply cannot hold any more sodium chloride. And so if you put all these mineral salts into this brine solution, wow, I whistled on you there. It can't hold any more sodium chloride because it's brine. And that's what brine is. It's water that is completely saturated with sodium chloride. It cannot hold any more sodium chloride, but it can hold loads of potassium chloride and calcium chloride and, you know, all these other mineral salts that are in there that can dissolve into the brine solution. And so they wash it in brine, and it dissolves out all the minerals that are not sodium chloride. And eventually, after several cycles of washing in brine solution, what you're left with is just the sodium chloride that had used to be in the ocean and now is just what's left behind, because they washed it in brine. And of course, it gets out all the other contaminants, and all the fish poop and all that stuff that's in there too gets washed out. And you're left with just basically pure sodium chloride from the sea. And that's the step they never tell you about on the back of the damn bottle. They just make it sound like we evaporated ocean water away, and now you've got this delicious salt for your table. And you're missing a couple steps there in between, but that's how that works. And I always find that interesting. And now you know. All right. Water treatment plant across the street. Yeah, I wouldn't put that water in my drink either. Good Lord. Did I already say hi, Bob? Yeah, I was just getting ready to say, if you ever go to a fish store and you see saltwater mollies being sold for $25 a piece or whatever, you're getting had. There's no such thing, as far as I know, as a saltwater molly. A saltwater molly is just a molly. Mollies do well in saltwater. They do better in saltwater than they do in really soft freshwater. I have so luck with mollies. I can keep them alive for a few years, but they don't really get as big as they can. You want to see a sailfin molly really amazing, 6 inches long with a fin that tall. Put it in a really heavily brackish tank or even a low end marine tank, and you will have an amazing looking sailfin molly. So I would recommend it if you've got a tank and you want to put mollies in it. That if you already got a saltwater tank, give it a shot. Or if you've got a brackish tank, and mollies are great additions to brackish tanks, depending on what the other inhabitants are. But yeah, mollies are awesome in saltwater. They do better there than in freshwater for sure. I almost just meowed at one of my fish. I don't think it would have responded. No wonder if Squeaker's going to pay us a visit tonight. And I'm already going to tell you, if Squeaker comes in, I'm not picking him up tonight. I'm wearing a stupid cotton t-shirt, which I fucking hate. But as I told you, I took one for the team tonight to wear the Pink Floyd shirt. My arms are sweaty, and I am still tripping. And so I do not want cat hair all fucking over me. That would not be fun. That was a bit much. I was wondering if you were still awake, Steve. I was going to mention where you lived, but I figured you were probably asleep, and so I wasn't going to bring you into the live stream if you weren't here. I got flex, and I got tape, but I don't know if I got flex tape. Hey, Matt. I've never worried too much about much acclimation from freshwater into brackish. Now, I've never done freshwater straight to saltwater like marine water, but I've taken a million fish over the years when I used to have the brackish tank and taken them right from freshwater and put them right into my brackish tank, and they've never had a problem with it. Uh, a euryhaline animal, a brackish fish, really can change water chemistry very quickly. If they swim upstream or downstream just a couple of miles over a 20 or 30-minute period, they might be go from completely freshwater to very brackish water and then back again an hour later. And so they can rapidly change from fresh to more saline water. Now, again, going straight from freshwater tank, if you got them in salt water or something and slap them right into a marine tank, that might be a bit of a shock to the system. But it probably does not need as much acclimation as you think. I would say within an hour, you could have it from freshwater into marine water, and it would probably be fine. If you want to take longer than that, that would be up to you. But the idea of when I had a brackish tank, I had this conversation with a lot of people. A lot of people, what they would want to do was take a freshwater tank, and then every time they did a water change, once a week, they would add that much salinity to it. They would go up 2 points, on the specific gravity scale, and that way, within 6 months, I should be up to where I want to be. And they're only talking about moving from fresh to low mid-range brackish. Like you do not need to take 6 months to do that. You could do it in a water change if you actually had fish that like mollies or platies or guppies or something like that. Well, guppies I'm not so sure about. I don't know how well guppies tolerate brackish water, but mollies and platies certainly do. There's some rainbow fish out there that are good in brackish water. Almost all the native fish around here, unless you catch them in streams, like way away from larger bodies of water, then they can probably deal with brackish. I know the bass, the stripers, the catfish, a lot of the minnows around here, shiners, sunfish, all the different fish in the sunfish family, all of those can go in brackish water. Low end brackish, I wouldn't put them, past 1 point, 1014, 015, something like that. But they swim in and out of brackish water all the time. Just downstream from the Conowingo Dam, you don't have to go very far before you're officially in the Chesapeake Bay, which is brackish water. And so there's that mixture right there at the top of the bay, and fish swim in and out of that all the time. So there's more fish out there that are brackish in nature than a lot of people realizes. Yeah, I wouldn't even have taken 24 hours, honestly. Now, again, if you're talking about going from fresh to salt, I might go one step in between. I might put it in brackish for a day, and then the next day, maybe over 2 days, maybe go to low end brackish, high end brackish, and then the third day, but honestly, I probably wouldn't even do that. I'd probably take about an hour or two to get it from one. I don't have a lot of patience, and I don't think it's necessary. I really would probably just take a couple hours to get it from fresh all the way to saltwater if it was a molly. There's other fish that I might not do it that quickly, but honestly, I can't think of any. My puffer. I can't think of any fish. Now, again, it's got to be a fish that can go into marine water. There's a lot of brackish fish, as they're often referred to. They can't go into full marine necessarily, or couldn't stay there for any length of time. But they can go from fresh into very brackish water and go in this sort of wide range of salinity. Just because they fish, the definition of a brackish fish is called a euryhaline, and that means wide range of salinity. And so just because a fish can go through a wide range of salinity doesn't mean it can go through the full range of salinity necessarily. So not all brackish fish, as we call them often, can go from fresh all the way to marine, like the way a molly can. But whatever brackish fish you're talking about, whatever euryhaline fish you're talking about, it can go from the bottom end of its scale, freshness wise, all the way up to the top end of its scale, salty wise, in an hour with no real issue. And so if a molly can tolerate freshwater or marine water, you don't need to take a huge amount of time getting it from one end to the other. It's just that's the way their bodies are built to do that. They're built to shift salinity and just cope with it. It's not like you're not really acclimating them to these environments. They're already equipped to be in that environment. To acclimate a fish to an environment would be to take a fish that's in one environment that's sort of meant to be in this stable environment, and I want to move it to this environment. Think about shifting your teeth with braces. You got to do it slowly, and eventually you'll get them there. A fish that's sort of designed by nature to be able to go from here to here with no problem can go from here to here with no problem. You're not really acclimating them to different water. They're kind of designed to go in any water. And so it's not as big a deal, I think, as a lot of people make of it. Let's see, trying to figure out where I was. There's Matt joining us. 24 hours, that's where I went off the rails. Agree with you there, Bob. Not sure what the trophy's about. Who remembers the very first fish tank? You mean who remembers their very first fish tank? I certainly remember mine. I gave up trying to identify the dace I had. I had what almost everybody referred to as black-nosed dace. I didn't really care. It's academic. I'm not breeding them. So whatever. You call them whatever the fuck you want. Don't matter to me. They weren't black-nosed dace. I looked at those dace, and if you really get into start looking at them, which you clearly are doing, you will see that there's so many different species that look so similar. And the way you identify this one is it has 7 rays in its fin instead of 5. And this one has 4 scales behind its eye before you get to the first gill flap, whereas this species has 7, scales between its eye and its gill flap. And it's like distinctions like that is what you get down into, where the black line stops here rather than going all the way around. And that's what I think the distinction on mine was that with the black-nosed dace, that black line that runs up the side actually goes all the way around. It's like a mustache across the front of the fish. And mine didn't have that. Mine, the black line just went right up to the gill flaps, and the fish had a darker face, which gave the appearance of the line maybe going all the way around, but it wasn't. And I don't remember the details, but I just remember positively identifying it's definitely not that fish. I never could figure out which one it was because they're always moving and shit. But whatever the identification for the black-nosed dace was, I was sure it was not that one. And yet everybody glanced at them and said, "Oh, those are black-nosed dace." Every time I said I didn't know what they were, everybody told me what they were, and they were always wrong. The ones that I had that were the rosy side, they were really easy to identify. They almost have like a blue and a red stripe on the side. Other than that, I don't know my little native fish around here at all. We got all kind of weird little. There's a lot of little fish, and if you spend any time poking around in streams, which you clearly do, there's a ton of little things and squidgely little things and insects and weird larvae and little tiny fish that once you really get your eye in and start looking, you never realize there's another kind of little tiny fish in there. And so I have no idea what most of that shit is. It's just fun to look at and play with. A 5-gallon tank, I would be okay putting a betta fish in a 5-gallon tank. I know some people say bigger than that, but I'd be okay putting a betta fish in a 5-gallon tank. You can put some guppies in there. You could put some embers, tetras, or those little galaxy rasboras that only get about that big. You could put a few of those in there. There's quite a few little nano fish that you could put in there. A 5-gallon tank, you could probably even get away with the little rasbora hets. Technically, there's a difference between the pork chop rasboras and the rasbora hats, but that's what I basically mean when I say the rasbora hats, the ones that look like those little pork chop shaped jobs. They only get about that big. You could probably do 4 or 5 of those in a little 5-gallon tank. I think that would probably be okay. And endlers would be good in there too. Not full-size guppies, but endlers. You got a different species of gambusia out there, Ark, than I have here. Yeah, scarlet batis, that would go in there. It's the batis, I believe it's called. All right, I don't know why I'm doing this again, because I know I don't need to do this, but I'm checking my comments over on Discord. That's, what's his face, Gene. What the hell's his name? The sports announcer guy with the bald head back from the 80s. His name's Gene something. I'll figure that out later. Let me get back to my YouTube. I don't want to go to Google. I want to go to YouTube. I hit the wrong button. Yeah, I could see 2-gallon tanks pretty small, but endlers only get about that big. They're like half-size guppies. Guppies can actually get pretty chunky, especially the females. A guppy can get a couple of inches long, get a pretty good-sized belly on it. I know you think of a guppy as being a small fish, and they are small fish, but they're not nano fish. The endlers guppies are half the size of a normal guppy, and they're nice and compact for very small tanks. 2 gallons, probably really getting down onto the bottom end of it, but I'm not one of those people that gets too terribly upset about, oh, you're supposed to have 6 of them in a school, not 4. It's cruelty to animals and all. That's a little extreme. I don't really give a fuck if somebody's got some fish in a tank that's a little too small. There's a lot of other things. I've only got so much shit I can worry about. That ain't fucking one of them. That don't even get on my radar. But yeah, that's getting kind of small for fish, just from a practical point of view. But if you got a few in there, and whatever, I don't see that as being a big deal. Again, they're little tiny fuckers, so you can do a lot with a 5-gallon tank. You can also put like some nearite snail or a mystery snail or something like that in there. That's always neat. Not sure, like the pygmy cory was mentioned. I can't think of too many bottom type fish that would be small enough for that tank. I don't know if a full size cory would be right in a 5-gallon. That's pretty small. Yeah, guppies can get pretty big. I've had some females that were, that long without the frilly tail. You had the long tail and they were longer, but the bodies were that long. And once they get pregnant, and they're pregnant from their 4th on the rest of their lives, I've seen some chunky female guppies. The males don't get quite as big, but you can get some pretty good sized guppies. Gambusia fins. I know there's an eastern guppy and eastern gambusia and a western gambusia, and I obviously have the eastern, and you've got the western. Yeah, if I ever really cared that much about it, I would. I don't even have one of those apps that lets me identify plants and stuff like that. Whenever we go walking, me and my wife, we're in the woods, we'll see some cool plant that we like, and she'll just whip out her phone, point the camera at it, and she's like, "This is a," and she tells me what it is and shows me pictures of what it looks like when it's in fruit and what the colors are in the autumn. Science is fucking awesome. Living in the future is amazing. I mean, it sucks in a lot of ways, but it's so much better than the 70s. It really is. But I don't have that kind of app for anything. I saw one today that was pretty cool. It was an app for identifying rocks. If you wanted any kind of rock identified, and I'm not a true rock hound, but I love rocks, and finding cool rocks is always exciting. And I'd love to be able to just, I guess I could just get the app and put it on my phone. But the idea that I could just point my phone at it, it would tell me exactly what kind of rock it is would be neat. Now, what would I do with that information once I knew about it? I don't know. Probably nothing. I don't even know the names of most of the damn fish I have because it doesn't fucking matter. That fish tank just is what it is. The fish you see in it are the fish you see in it. I don't worry too much about, like, people ask me, well, how many fish do you have? I don't fucking know. Like, you think I counted all my fish? I couldn't tell you how many fish are in that tank, let alone this room. Um, I couldn't even tell you all the different kinds of fish I have in that tank without really thinking about it and looking at it. So that kind of stuff is just academic to me. Like I said, it's something to know for the sake of knowing. It doesn't accomplish anything. Knowing the species of a fish, I can talk about it and sound more, more educated than I probably should sound. Um, but that's all that does. And I'm not trying to pose as overly educated by using all the proper names for my fish and all that stuff, because that's just not how I think about it. I don't know. I just don't see the world like that. So I probably will never get my little rock identifying app, but my wife does have a pretty cool plant identifying app. I don't know where I was going with that. I started out somewhere and had a destination, but I went off the rails on that one too somewhere. Oh, identifying the stuff, right? Yeah, I never worried too much about that. I think you guys got that. Hmm. Well, you can do more with a 20 than you can with a 5. All right, I don't necessarily need to comment on all these. I'm just trying to get caught up. I'm assuming you meant to spell it wrong, Zini. That's why I pronounced it wrong. I would agree, and I'm going to go so far as to say a 20 long, I think, is the best small size tank, not nano tank, but for a small tank. And I know once you go into the long dimension, it takes up a little more of a footprint. But there's a lot you can do with a 20 long. They're really nice size tanks. I've never had a 60. I bet there's an app, Bob. There's an app for all that kind of shit. If there's a fucking app out there that lets me identify shiny rocks, there's got to be an app that lets you identify insects. Yeah, there you go, Harryman. Same thing. Oh, chili rasper. That's another good one for little nano fish. Cankles and bluefins. All right, there's one female guppy in your 20 that will plow down any other guppy for food. She's the alpha female. Nice. That's what I assumed you were doing, was typing your limey bastard accent at us. Oh God, dude. Speaking of 4 or 5, I had some customer service person one time do that to me. Remind me. Let me get caught up and remind me of that story because that's a funny story. God, I wanted to choke that woman to death. I saw Z that one time, and I vaguely remember hearing him say something or other, but I wasn't really paying that much attention. Um, so I just think of him more of his from his beefcake pictures because he sends me beefcake pictures too. It's not just one way. Yeah, I know. It never rains, but it pours. But it's also just idle chit chat. It's not really necessarily giving me anything to even talk about. That's why I'm able to just skim over it and just sort of read what everybody's saying. This is fine. All right, I am caught up. I had this woman one time, and I don't remember what it was. I'd called customer service at something, and they were giving me some number that I was supposed to type in, and it was like, 11453624 or whatever. And so I typed that in, and it wasn't working. And then I was like, all right, that didn't go in. And she's like, okay, 1345 678, whatever the fuck I just said. And we must have did this fucking 4 times in a row. And I said, wait a minute. I said, are you saying, 135555? And she's like, no, I'm not saying. Or I said, are you saying 13? Number 4, number 5? And she says, no. I said, you're saying so it's you. She was basically saying, instead of just saying 1355 and just giving me the fucking number, she was telling me the number of numbers there was. She was telling me how many fives there was. She was saying the number was 13. Then you put 4 5s down, and then the last. Who the fuck gives a number like that? Why would you give me the number of fucking numbers that are in the goddamn number you're trying to give me? Just give me each numeral in a fucking row. Who does that? It was just, oh my God, I was so infuriated when I figured out what she was actually doing. Like, who fucking does that? So, yeah, communication is hard sometimes. Reptiles can be stinky. I'll agree with that. Yeah, I guess that person does that. Whoever they were, that they did it. I wonder if they will anymore ever again after that. Um, the stinkiest reptiles I've ever had are snakes because that's the only kind of reptiles I ever had. I had what are those fucking lizards called? Iguanas. I had an iguana for a little while, but it died. It never got very big or anything. I barely even count that. But I kept snakes for a while, several years, and big snakes especially just stink. The snakes themselves just give off an odor. They stink, but when they shit, it's foul, and if they vomit, it's even more foul than their shit somehow. They like to shit in their water. They can be funky when they shed their skin. There's a fairly strong odor associated with the fresh skin that's in their environment drying out. If you've got large constrictors and large snakes, you're going to have a lot of fucking odor in your house. They're just really a smelly animal. All right. Yeah, I don't know much about any of them. Nice. Karaoke iguana. Let's Let me see. My favorite Pokemon. Do I know any other than Pikachu? I can't say Pikachu because that's the one everybody knows. Do I even know any other fucking Pokemons? I don't know. Yeah, I was kind of wondering what you meant there, Zini. I figured it might be a typo, and then now that makes a lot more sense. So yeah. Charizard. Okay, I've heard that name before. Yeah, I was actually thinking about that again today, Zini. I was gonna actually shoot you some video and chat about it, but then I realized there's nothing to really chat about. I was just thinking about it and just shaking my head, like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck? How did that even happen? Like, I just, again, it just was fucking weird. But I realized it was one of those moments that I was just, my mushrooms were kicking in, and I didn't really need to be shooting you a video about it. And I just put that thought aside and enjoyed the garden for a little while. But I was thinking about that earlier, how you ended up in that predicament and how fucking weird that was. Magikarp, nice. And I shot a second going out looking for the cat video, but it was exactly the same as the first going out for the cat video, except not only did I not find the cat, but it was quiet. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and the frog had stopped. The owl wasn't there. I went outside last night, and just because, and obviously you guys don't know what the fuck I'm talking about except for Zini. I went outside last night looking for my cat, and I have been talking for a while about while I've been on these mushroom trips, going outside and listening to the night sounds and all that kind of stuff. And so I took my camera with me and just went to go look for the cat. Well, I always have to go outside and call for him. He'll never come in by himself for some reason. And so I shot the video while I was out there. I was just kind of quiet, and I just sort of let the night sound sink in. And I got some really good stuff. We got a little pond out back, and the bullfrog was singing. And once I walked over around out of the light and was in the darkness, we have a barred owl that lives in the tree up behind in our backyard, and the barred owl started making all these hooty hoot noises and whatnot. We got tree frogs and crickets and insects. It's a fucking cacophony out there. It's loud. And so it was just some cool audio video of being like outside in the darkness. Couldn't see much, but just hearing all the night sounds and everything. So anyway, the second video I shot was basically the exact same as the first one, except it was far less night sounds, and so I didn't see any point in posting that one to you. But I enjoyed going outside. That was fun going outside a little bit last night. All right, let me see where I was. All right, my tablet's whirly-gigging. I don't know if you guys are whirly-gigging or not. Yeah, that's usually the way it goes, Zini. Just when everything's starting to look bright, somebody kicks you in the balls, usually from behind. Ecosystems are amazing. Yeah, typing sideways would be hard. I think typing upside down would be easier than typing sideways. All right, I'm all caught up once again. Let me get some iced tea in me. I'm feeling very, very parched. I wonder if mushrooms make you dehydrated. So I'm digging these mushrooms. I'm really been enjoying this week. Again, I know this is kind of a low key live stream, considering I assure you, I'm tripping right now. This is just it's just been kind of a low energy night. I don't know, but those candy bars, it's no joke. Them 6 fucking squares was no joke. Steve had said something earlier to me. I don't know if Steve's still awake or not. when I showed him the picture of it, I'm getting lag time even on my either that or my brain's lag time on the fucking monitor up there. I had 3 mouths the other night, so you never know what's going on tonight. Um, but I showed Steve a picture of the candy bar I got, and he said a friend of his got one, same company, and he ate the whole candy bar. He said like the whole candy bar had less than the equivalent of like a gram's worth of mushrooms in it. And I was thinking, well, damn, that's just kind of like a nice buzz at that point, the whole fucking candy bar. It says just, a few squares. So I said, I'm going to go with what it says on the box, not what Steve said. And so I started with 3. And after an hour and a half, I was rolling along pretty good. And I thought I could do 3 more. And so I ate 3 more. And then it really started rolling on. And then the second 3 started rolling on. And that was at like 4 o'clock this afternoon or something, and I've still got a nice trip rolling here. This has been very long lasting. I'm not even thinking about that. I remember when I ate the second batch, looking at the clock and thinking I'll probably be coming down as I start my live stream, and I'm probably on the way down. I'm coming in for a landing to a degree, but I still have a nice little trip rolling here, and it's been 4.5, 5 hours since I ate them or longer. When did I eat them? Was it 6 o'clock? I don't know when it was, but it's been a while. It was long enough before the live stream that I remember thinking I'll be mostly over this by the time the live stream starts, so I won't be tripping during the live stream tonight. No, I was wrong because I am. But yeah, I've been enjoying this week. I'm enjoying all this mushroom experience, and so now I'm really thinking from an economic point of view. The reason I grow weed, I know if you were here earlier and you saw those plants I have and everything, that really is basically just for personal use. I go through a lot of weed. And I'll go through a lot of mushrooms too if I can get them, which I can, but I don't have the money. So if I can cultivate them easily enough, that's an option. So I don't know if we can do that or not. I'll have to look into it. I looked into how to grow them from dried mushrooms, and it started to get kind of complicated. And I said, I'm not fucking with that. I'll just buy them for now. I'll figure it out later. But I want to look into those kits that you can buy where it's just like everything you need. You just sprinkle the fucking dust in and turn it on or put it in the corner, and in 4 days you'll have your first sprout of mushrooms or something like that. If I can find something like that, I'll give it a shot. I'd be interested in trying to grow my own mushrooms. I think that would be cool. I think that'd be fun to do. Again, I think this last week has felt more therapeutic than recreational. The biggest thing I've noticed, well, there's several things that have been pretty significant, but the ones that I would talk about would be my depression feels way lifted. I don't feel like the fucking weight of the world's just caving my head in anymore. I haven't been taking naps during the day. I feel more motivated. My brain is calmer. My thoughts are clearer. Maybe not right at the moment while I'm tripping, but just overall, over this last week, it's just had a very sort of normalizing effect on my brain. I'm even starting to think about trying to like get some work drummed up and go out and look for some more, deer repellent customers and whatnot. I thought about that yesterday. I was like, wow, that's not something that goes through my brain very often. So yeah, I've been enjoying this. So we'll see what happens. All right, let me get caught back up. I saw some stop signs up there somewhere. I definitely don't want a gecko, Christopher. I appreciate it. And depending on what fish you have, I might take some of your fish. Let's see. Oh, I can imagine that was fucking traumatic, Zini. I don't know who got the membership. It's not showing. Oh, Hamilton got it. I don't know if Hamilton is with us, but they now have a membership. So thank you, Zini. That was awesome. Yeah, I know. It's lagging. It's even lagging on my damn laptop. Not much. It's about a half a second, but it's usually right on with what's going on. So that little half-second lag makes me question whether it really is in my brain or not. No, Hamilton got it. Yeah, I didn't do half the bar. It's 15 squares, and I ate six. So I ate 6/15 of it. Close to half, but not quite. I think the next time I've been thinking about this, I don't know whether I want to eat nine or I want to split up four and three or whatever. No, that would make seven. Anyway, I don't know if I want to eat all nine of the remaining pieces in one go, or I want to divide that up into smaller micro trips or mediocre trips. Mediocre? No, that's not good. Definitely not macro, but it ain't micro either. I don't know. We'll see. But again, I ain't paying $45 for another one. If I get any more, it'll be on subscription. I can cancel anytime, so maybe I'll do that and just set it up and once a month. Great, I go through it. That'd be like once a week. But see, I'm not spending $100 a month on mushrooms, and I could easily do that. Yeah, I'm really, once I started looking at the clock and realizing how late it is, it just sort of dawned on me. It's like I was just saying earlier to my wife, one of the things that I've been enjoying about the mushrooms that I've been eating all week, the candy bar is today, but I've been eating actual mushrooms and mushroom tea and everything earlier in the week. And it's just not a commitment like the way doing acid was. When I would do acid, I would trip for 15 hours minimum. I would just trip for so fucking long when I did acid. And then the coming down was rough. And then the next day I had that acid hangover for maybe even a couple days. Like it was a commitment doing acid. These mushrooms have been a breeze. They come on to me nice and whatever. Sometimes that one time was a little aggressive, but I did chug the tea on an empty stomach. But 4 or 5 hours later, and I'm just coming in for a nice, smooth, gentle landing and just go on with my day. I feel fine. I don't feel hungover. This has been fucking a long time, and I'm still seeing trails a little heavier than I normally would. I get weird shit going on when I can see like my tablet moving just out of my peripheral vision. I'm getting weird color shit going on down here. That's a lot of tripping for as many fucking hours ago as it was that I ate those little squares. Yeah, I would imagine mushrooms are pretty easy if you get some spores and whatnot. They're fucking mushrooms. They should be able to do all right. Yeah, do that, Christopher. I'll check that out. No, they're not addictive, but it would, I think. I do think you build up a tolerance. If I ate them every day, I would probably have to eat more and more. So I would definitely not do that. I don't want to be on fucking mushrooms every day, even small doses every day. That's not something I'm wanting to do. There's a little man. Damn. I don't know what kind of mushrooms it said was in the candy bar. I want like Mexicana cubensis, I think maybe. I know there are several different strains that are considered magic mushrooms. I don't know much about them though. Yeah, go out talk to new customers. Look at all their fucking plants moving all around in front of me while I'm trying to sell them some deer repellent service. Freddy Krueger went into your brain. This is the first time I've ever tried chocolate bars. Every time in my life I've ever eaten mushrooms, I've literally eaten dried mushrooms, except for Wednesday, I made tea, and that was awesome. I really liked the tea. I liked the effects. The drink in it was just easy. I will never eat mushrooms again unless I'm out in the fucking woods and somebody's like, here, and has a bag, and I got no choice but to chew them up and swallow them right then and there. But I will definitely be making tea again if I ever get actual dried mushrooms. So that was Wednesday, is the first time I've ever not eaten them. I've taken them another way in the tea. And then today was, I just sort of took a chance on that chocolate bar, figuring let's buy one, see what happens. I can kind of go from there. If I like it, I can buy more. If it's too expensive, I can, but let's get one. Let's find out. And I'm not unhappy with it. Again, if I could get them for $25 a piece, that would be fine. I just don't want to sign up for a scheduled commitment, even at once a month. Although I don't know, maybe I will get one a month, and then that way I wouldn't get them too frequently. It'd be more of a treat than a regular thing. I don't know. We'll see. But the fact that the option's out there, I think, is pretty interesting. And then there's a lot of places where I can just buy actual mushrooms. Are you familiar with the mushroom dispensary in DC, Christopher? It's just like a block away, just like a block north of the White House. It's in Adams Morgan. I called them and I talked to the woman there, and all I need is an ID showing I'm over 18, and I can go down there and buy mushrooms. And I looked at their website. They sell the penis envy that apparently everybody sells. Apparently, it's a very popular brand of mushrooms, or strain of mushrooms. But they sold a variety, and like it told you what kind of mushroom you were getting. It wasn't just like, here's a bag of fucking shrooms, which is what I've always gotten. Um, it's about an hour and 45-minute drive for me to get down there. But if I get on 97, I can just go straight down 97, almost right to the fucking place. It's like, you get right there and you go like one block that way and you're at the front door. So I've been thinking about driving down there. Thought about going down there today, but I really don't feel like spending 4 hours driving just to get some mushrooms again when I knew my chocolate bar was showing up today. So I'm glad I didn't. Oh, I'm definitely still growing weed, man. Become one with the field. All right, let me get caught up here. Well, the intoxicating effects are the reason I take them. Amanita muscaria. Interesting. Like I said, I don't know much about the different flavors. Well, that's scary. Off of weed? Is that what you're talking about? Oh, no, the half a chocolate bar you said you ate, right. Hey, Steve, how are you? Yeah, that we were talking about that earlier. Even in regards to marijuana, there may be no specific law on the books that says you're not allowed to drive on marijuana, or this is the limit that can be in your blood, or whatever. I don't think there's any law that says you can't be driving on mushrooms. But if you're driving on mushrooms and you're on the wrong side of the fucking road trying to get on the freeway onto the northbound side, and they pull you over and you're out of your fucking skull, that's, it's reckless driving. It's, driving while intoxicated. They can still get you on charges, even though there's no specific, you're not allowed to drive on mushrooms charge. So I drove on mushrooms the other day, and if a cop had stopped me, I would have had a perfectly normal conversation and showed him my license, and I'm a middle-aged white guy. He would have told me, don't do that again, or get your blinker fixed or whatever, and sent me on my way. It just wasn't a big deal. But again, I've not been tripping like I'm used to tripping. Every other time I've ever tripped in my life, this isn't even what I would consider a trip. What I consider a trip is when you spend 2 hours in the closet, or you've been outside looking at the same clover for 45 minutes because in your mind there's a whole fucking world on it. Horton Hears a Who style. That's tripping to me. Like, you're out of your fucking skull when you're tripping. Like, This is not that, obviously. But it's been interesting. That's what I'm saying. I've been like, this has been a new experience for me to have these sort of low level, low grade trips where I'm very clearly tripping and I'm definitely getting visuals and all that kind of stuff. But it's nothing like I think of as tripping. So it's been fun. I've been enjoying it. 20 minutes from Berkeley. Get some good LSD there, probably. I wonder if they still have the LSD at the Berkeley. They probably do. Yeah, you just go outside in your backyard and scoop up a big ass iguana. Try not to get shot while you're doing it. They have dudes down there that shoot them. Right? It's the Gold House. If you can see past the flags that obscure the view for the helicopters. Yeah, that's what I would assume. It's just lumped into the driving under the influence. It's done. That doesn't say what the influence of what. You know, it could be the influence of alcohol. If they weren't able to prove it at the time, they can. You know, it's just that like we don't. He was on something. You know, it might have been fucking cold medicine. If you took too much of it, or if it was affecting you really strongly, and you were sort of spacey and out of it, you're driving your brain and your reactions and stuff are being influenced by some outside chemical. That's all it really needs to be driving under the influence, or driving while intoxicated. It depends. I think there's a legal distinction between driving under the influence and driving while intoxicated. Driving while intoxicated is a more definitive, like, yeah, he was fucking drunk, sort of charge. I'm paraphrasing probably the legalese a little bit. But the driving while under the influence means you got enough of something in you that's affecting you, but you're not necessarily falling down, kind of thing. So I think there is a legal distinction, at least when it comes to alcohol, because you can very clearly do, very precise measurements of how much alcohol is affecting you right at this moment. Anybody that thinks they can cheat a breathalyzer or whatever, you cannot. It's like that very accurately reads how much alcohol is in your blood. I've been having to clear my lungs and throat for a while now, but it's really dry. It just won't move. It's killing me. I know it's way more information than you guys need, but I always give you more than you need. All right, Christopher, thanks for stopping by and hanging out. If you touch an iguana, you own it. That's a good law. Yeah, that's what I was saying. If you're going out trying to catch an iguana, make sure you don't get shot by accident, because they got dudes out there that hunt those things just for the sake of killing them, thin the population. All right, I guess I will start winding down. It is almost 11 o'clock after all. And my buzz is definitely starting to wear down and wear off. It is almost 11 o'clock. Well, that was a nice fucking ride. All right, let's get into first positions at least. Oh, I feel like I've been sitting down for 6 hours. Holy crap. I'm too old for this shit. I want to get some food in my belly too. Aha, I didn't dunk my head tonight. Man, just an hour of sitting not doing anything. My shoulder feels so much more not in pain. It feels actually a little bit relaxed. I did also take a couple of muscle relaxers earlier just because my shoulder's hurting so bad, and it seems to be working. And I also took 5 Advil. All right, all these good nights are making me yawn again. See, I can't watch myself yawn and continue. Like it's like somebody's yawning, they stick your finger in your mouth. Like it definitely fucks your yawn up immediately. So me trying to watch myself yawn is hard. Yeah, I've been doing like at this point, I can feel it all the way up to my ear, my whole shoulder girdle, everything across here hurts, all the stuff in the back, and then of course it's either my rotator cuff or my deltoid right here in the front. Do I can't lift it forward like that. If I go beyond this, like it's starting to hurt right there. If I tried to actually lift weight or like really engage my deltoid right there, I think that's what it is. It's that deltoid right there because that's what when you're lifting your arm like that, not this part of your arm, but when you're bringing your forearm up, I mean your brachium up, it's your deltoid right there, that little tiny muscle in your shoulder. If you ever see like somebody that's really well built and they got like the big shoulders and they got the muscle here and sort of a muscle there and then one in the back, that lets you bring it this way, bring it this way, and bring it that way. Those are your deltoids that do that. And so when I do that, it fucking lights it up right there. And it feels like my deltoid, or possibly it's deep enough down in there that it might be the rotator cuff. The rotator cuff is the where the condyle on your arm bone is, your humerus is. It it's a very shallow socket. That's why you get this incredible range of motion. But because it's such a shallow socket, your humerus doesn't want to stay in there, and so it has these really tight, small muscles that just sort of wrap around that condyle. The big bulgy end of the bone is the condyle, and that is what sort of holds it in place, and that can get strained pretty easily too. And so it's something going on in there. But because of, once one thing starts getting stressed and you start holding your arm, you start holding your shoulder different and doing things different, and it just the arm bone's connected to the shoulder bone, and you know the song, and it's everything is fucking connected to every goddamn thing. You ever walk with a little pebble in your shoe for like an hour, and after an hour, like your back hurts and your knee hurts and your hip hurts and everything, like just that tiny little change in the way you're putting weight on your leg and shifting the way you walk just has an impact on your whole fucking body. And so this has been going on long enough now that it's my whole fucking shoulder girdle. It's driving me crazy. I'm thinking about going to a damn doctor one of these days. And Advil wouldn't be damaging on my kidneys. Advil is rough on your stomach. You always want to take Advil or ibuprofen with food. Acetaminophen or Tylenol, I don't recommend taking at all. It's not clinically proven to do any fucking thing beyond the same results as the placebo, and it's known to have negative health consequences. So I don't recommend taking acetaminophen at all. But acetaminophen is really rough on your liver, so don't do that. No, this doesn't feel like a nerve. It feels like soft tissue damage. And again, the way I'm moving my arm, I used to be a therapist. I mean, it's not like I don't know anything about what I'm talking about. I'm not just spitballing here from what I read on WebMD. I do know what I'm talking about as far as the muscles and how they function and what's where and all that kind of stuff. And I can certainly feel where it is, and I can feel why it starts to hurt and what I'm trying to engage and what muscles I'm using. And, I can stick it out this way with no problem at all. I can feel it up front here, but that is fine. I can't go this way. I can't get right there, and it starts to fucking hurt. It's just as soon as that forward deltoid starts to engage, it's like somebody jamming a fucking ice pick in my. Oh God, that hurts. So, as the doctor would tell me, don't do that anymore. So that's why I've been carrying it around in a sling. It just, the less I use it, it just allows that muscle to recover. I don't know what I did. I must have. It's soft tissue damage. I strained something, and I don't know how. I don't know what the fuck I did to do it. But it is definitely a strain going on in there. It's fucking killing me. But we are moving forward. I never heard that about the ibuprofen before. Well, I stay fairly well hydrated, so I shouldn't have too much to worry about that. I stay hydrated just because all the damn protein I consume. When you're as manly as I am, you got to consume a lot of protein. Soy protein. I can't believe soy wasn't on the list of things that make you gay. All right, everybody. Any last thoughts? Does anybody want to hang around and stick around? I mean, I can stay live. I just feel like I should be winding down. It's 11 o'clock. I did a 6 hour. I feel like I've live streamed a lot this week. I did a 6 hour live stream on Saturday. That was fucking epic. That was my best live stream ever. I had so much fun. I really did enjoy that. And then on Wednesday's live stream, the members only live stream, I just went off the rails talking about all kind of wacky shit in my past, and my ex-wife and the divorce and all that kind of stuff. So it was fun going down a little reminisce. I remembered something today, and goddamn, I don't remember what it was now, but I thought, you know what? That's the first time I've thought about that in years. And I thought it would have been a fun story to tell, and now I don't remember what the hell it was. It'll probably pop back into my head at some point. Snort some discus. You got to chop them up real fine first. They're turning the frogs gay. I'm not wasting shrooms on them stupid fish. And fish get their own shrooms. All right, I will take a few moments to put a couple things away while we're wrapping up and saying goodnight. There's less for me to do afterwards. Normally, I would have the class help me clean up, but you guys can't really actually do that. Ooh, coffee. I don't need coffee, but it was good. You know what I'm doing tomorrow? Me and the missus are going down to our local creamery, getting ice cream. That's going to be good. Need to get on Twitch and play some video games. Was that you that suggested that before? Somebody, I don't know if that was you or not. Somebody suggested I do a live stream of playing video games or do a podcast or something of me playing video games. I have a Discord server. Isn't Discord supposed to be like a video gaming platform? I mean, their fucking logo, it looks like a controller, for God's sakes. But I'm not a gamer. I don't play games, which I guess is the point. Old people like me trying to play new modern video games is probably fucking hilarious. It wouldn't be for me, though. I'd be frustrated as fuck. No, we're not talking about that. No, I'm not interested in playing video games. The last video game I played that I was really into was the Zelda on Wii. Prior to that, it was like Mario Kart on N64. I really liked Mario Golf. Mario Golf is probably my all-time favorite game that I've spent more hours playing than any other video game in the world. Even like when I was a kid and Pac-Man came out. Have you ever seen like the Pac-Man fever shit and all the stuff that happened in the late 70s when that video game came out and they were making fucking movies and songs and it was a cultural phenomenon? I remember all that. I lived through that. And you know, we got Pac-Man on, of course, it was on our Atari 2600. So, you know, but to us, it was magical. And we played it a lot. But I still swear to God, I've probably played Mario Golf 10 million hours. I never got a fucking minus 18, though. A buddy of mine did. He got it a couple of times. Minus 16 was the best I could ever do in a single round. That was always my goal. I wanted to get at least a birdie on every hole average and do a minus 18 round. And I never did. I only ever got to minus 16. But I could do minus 16 pretty fucking regularly. Yeah, Pac-Man was fucking crazy. You played as Atari. Nice. Dude, when you know, in the 70s, that was amazing. What was it, like 8-bit or whatever? Everything fucking big block rectangular things. God, play like old Atari 2600 Combat. When the plane flies diagonally, you can't even tell what the fuck that configuration of squares is supposed to meant to be, and then when it turns straight again, you're like, oh, okay, that looks like a fucking crude airplane shape, you know. And then it turns diagonal again, like, oh, nope, it's just back into a series of fucking blobs. Those were the days. Hell yeah, that sucked, but it was fucking great when you were 8, you know, 7, 8 years old. And home video games weren't a thing, you know, and then suddenly like you could play these games in your house again. It was just amazing. It was a magical time to be alive. We were talking about that the other night of now what was, did I leave a comment on the video or was I talking about that in the live stream? This week really has blurred together for me. It's been a very fucking psychedelic week for me. I thought that was you, Zini, but I wasn't sure. I didn't want to say anything. I wasn't sure. Yeah, before that, you went to the arcade, you put a quarter in. It was the same effect of like the VCR. When you didn't have to go to the fucking movies, you could just go to the video store in the afternoon, and that night the whole family could sit down with popcorn in front of the TV and watch Jaws or what. Like that was fucking insane. That was crazy. That was amazing. Now we're to the point where they're like trying to make us think AI is cool because they just run out of shit to give us. Like we are in such an abundance. Like, what else do we need? For fuck's sake, how many more things can you make my phone do? I don't use 99% of the things my phone can already do. What more are you going to add to it? You know, back in the day, we got all kind of cool shit we'd never seen before. Microwave ovens and VCRs and fucking answering machines. You could have a fucking machine answer your phone for you, and it got recorded on a little cassette tape. That was incredible. Nowadays, there's just nothing. We're waiting for like the real human flesh sex robots or something. It's going to be like the next greatest invention somebody comes up with. We've already got fucking auto taxis. Flying cars ain't going to be either too far away or never going to happen. It's one or the other. We're going to have either like flying drone cars or just we're never going to have them. So I don't know. Like I say, nothing magical really ever happens anymore. It would be tough growing up now, I think. I need cat ears if I'm going to play a video game. Yeah, Blockbuster. I remember Errol's. Errol's was the king of the fucking. There was a lot of little local mom and pop shops that sold 5-year-old movies for $1.50. But if you wanted to see the good stuff that had just come out recently, and you're going to pay like $3.50 for it, which again was a steal, Errol's was king for a long time, and then Blockbuster moved into town and just fucking destroyed Errol's and ran them out of town. It was big. It was like the VHS videotape wars and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, an interesting time to grow up through. The more I think about it. The headphones when I'm playing my video game and they got the ears clipped on. That wasn't what I was thinking. I do see a lot of people playing video game on their webcam, but they usually, in fact, they are never male. And I'm guessing that's what we're talking about here, since I'm talking to Zini. Yeah, we've got so many old VHS and shit and boxes of CDs and stuff that I don't think we'll ever use again. Somebody was talking today about the Cybertruck and what a fucking piece of garbage failure that thing is, and how it's going to be gone in a couple of years because it's just a piece of shit. Fucking more promises than anything. And somebody made the comment of like, you know what though, 20 years from now, the hipsters of the future will probably be either ironically buying them or it'll be like a collector's item, like the old Edsel or something on some other failed vehicle that now if you own an Edsel, you got something that's actually worth something. And I thought that might be true. And then I read a few of the comments and somebody had a very good point of like, it wouldn't work. It would be bricked. It would like, does your BlackBerry work? You know, like, and I thought, okay, yep, it's not the same kind of car I'm thinking about. Like in 20 years from now, your fucking Cybertruck ain't gonna work because there's not gonna be no fucking supporting network for it anymore. It's gonna be a brick. So that'll be interesting to see if that plays out. I think it will. All right, what are we talking about here? Even if I did a podcast, why does everybody keep asking? Doesn't everybody have podcasts now? I'm still not exactly sure what you mean, Zini. Are we talking about doing? Are we talking about doing my video game playing on like YouTube, or are we talking about doing my video game playing elsewhere, where it would be a little more adult oriented? I will say both. Nice. That's a lot of video gaming. I don't know. That's an awful lot of video gaming. And what video games would I play, pray tell? Pac-Man, Asteroids, that was always a good one. I like Defender a lot. That was good. No, I will definitely not be playing video games. Oh, I would totally hate it. I would get so frustrated so fast. Um, you guys have no idea how fast I would just get frustrated as fuck, and it would not be fun. It wouldn't be fun to watch. It would be probably disturbing. Well, actually, everybody probably would still laugh at me because people are terrible and they love watching somebody have a mental breakdown. Whereas I consider it a mental health crisis, they would fucking laugh at it. So maybe if I want to exploit my own mental health crises for some clicks, but I'm not really interested in doing that. Yes, everybody. They would definitely be laughing at my suffering. There's no doubt about that. Chicken Invaders. Never heard of the Chicken Invaders. Oh, it's one of the spin-offs of the Space Invaders. I've seen some wacky Space Invaders video games. They're kind of fun. Yeah, no, I don't mind exploiting myself sexually for money. I'm all right with that. But I definitely I enjoy that. I have fun when I'm doing that. I would not be having fun, and I get frustrated really fucking easily, and I do not like being frustrated. It's very bad for my brain. It's not good for my mental health, and I've learned for my mental health. The moment I feel like my frustration is starting to get, I just walk away. I put down whatever I'm doing and I walk away. I'll fucking come back to it later, but I need to stop doing this now, or I'm going to be breaking shit and in a foul mood the rest of the fucking day. Um, I'm not playing video games in front of a camera. Believe me, that would not be fun. Again, I waggle my junk around in front of it, but I ain't playing video games in front of it. All right. No, I don't get like that. I never throw shit. I never break things deliberately, but I do break things because if I'm trying to, insert tab A into slot B and it doesn't fucking want to go after about 30 seconds, I suddenly get really frustrated and just shove it in. Take that however you want, and it snaps off. It's not that I get angry and throw shit. I don't do that. I've never done that. I've never fucking deliberately like broken something over my knee and walked away. That's stupid. Why would I deliberately break shit? I've never understood that. People get angry and they throw their golf club in the pond or whatever. Well, now you got to go buy a new golf club, you fucking dumbass. So I'm not that guy, but I do break shit. I get frustrated and I try to force things, or I'll try to like force it open, and I don't realize it's just one more clip I have. If I just fucking calm down a little bit and look at it, I'll see that I got one more screw I got to get, and I'll just like, why won't this open? And I'll just fucking pull it open until it breaks, and then I can't put it back together because I just broke it. I do shit like that a lot, and so I've learned over the years. The moment I find myself starting to fucking just pull on it, just put it down. It's not supposed to be this hard to come apart. You're gonna break it, and I do. I just put it down, and I walk away, and I go do something else. So knowing one's weaknesses is a strength in itself. Believe me. Pinball games are fun. Pinball games are really fun. I was never good at them in the sense that I had any idea how to play them when I was a kid. I didn't know you had goals and I just whacked the ball around the board and got points and stuff until I missed and lost the ball. I didn't have any super precise control, and I wasn't aiming for this spot and that spot. Maybe a little bit here and there, but not in any sophisticated way at all. But it was just fun. It was it was tactile. It was there physically in your hands. You could feel the flipper buttons. That when the ball would bounce and smack that glass, and all that noise was happening. You could feel the machine shaking and all the fucking things going around. It was just a neat experience playing a pinball machine. If you've never played a real, actual old school pinball machine, they're a lot of fun. They really are. My aunt had two of them in her basement, and the place I used to get my hair cut when I was a kid. My dad would take us down to the street, which I now realize was a porn shop, but it was like one of the places where you can go in the back room and preview the videos. And my dad would go in and talk to the guy at the front counter, and he'd give us a handful of quarters, and he had a bunch of video games in there and some pinball machines, and we would go in there and play Asteroids and Pac-Man and play the pinball games and stuff. So yeah, if you ever get a chance to play a real actual pinball machine, and you never have, you should give it a shot. It's a lot of fun. Let's see. I could play Dream Daddy Live. I don't know. I don't know what Dream Daddy Live is, but it sounds like fun. I am daddy after all. When someone asks who's your daddy, it's me. I'm now going to have to look up Dream Daddy and see what that is. Ooh. Dad dating simulator. Oh, that's fucking awesome. Oh my god. All right, if I ever do a video game fucking podcast, it is definitely going to be this. I'm going to look into this more later. That is fucking fantastic. Holy crap. I got to tell my buddy Ryan about this one. Zini, you've outdone yourself. Chef's kiss. Oh, God, that is fucking incredible. Oh, man. I got tears in my eyes after that one. If anybody wants a good laugh, look up Dream Daddy video game. It's an adult dad dad dating site thing simulator. Oh god, that was fucking hilarious. Bum simulator. They probably have one of those. See how long you could live on the street. Now I'm curious how you know what Dream Daddy is. Do you have another daddy? Yeah, that's what I say. I would imagine it probably is a real game. I'm not. That doesn't surprise me at all. Oh God. Yeah, I can imagine. We live in a sick and twisted world. Does anybody remember bum fights? The people that go around and pay the homeless people to fight each other, and they videotape it, and then other people would pay money to watch that horribleness. Like, that was like so many things in my life have just like chipped away at my faith in humanity, and bum fights was definitely one of them, and bum simulator or whatever the fuck that is another one. There's a lot of them. Very few things sort of patch over the cracks, but a lot of things create the cracks, that's for sure. I guess if you don't laugh, you'll cry, right? A little bit of all of the above, actually, Kane. I keep wanting to call you Crane. Um, you'd enter that as a homeless. Well, when you're homeless, you'll do anything for a fucking steak or some money or whatever. That was part of the horribleness. Um, It was a little bit of everything that you just mentioned. I would either say what I thought it was in a video, and then somebody would correct me, and then I'd look up what they said and say, yep, sure enough, that's what it is. Or I would be curious about what it was, and I would Google it, and I would try to just figure out like native, species found in Maryland, and just start looking at pictures to see if I could identify it. Um, Not so much word of mouth. I don't really recall um, talking to anybody, locally or anything like that. But either someone would tell me what it was, or I would look it up and say what I thought it was, and then somebody would correct me, and I'd look back and we'd check and double check, and okay, yeah, that's definitely it. That's happened a few times over the years. Well, I pretty much think that my viewer base would not be too interested in Dream Mommy. So if I was going to play that, I really do think I would have to play Dream Daddy. Honey Pop? That sounds good. I always call my wife Honey Bunny. And I call her Honey Bunny because of the opening scene in Pulp Fiction. All right, everybody. We'll do one last dab, I guess, and we'll call it a night. It is 25 after 11. I know what I said like an hour ago. Again, if you guys keep me here. All right, Father Fish. I'll appreciate that. I'm trying to see Father Fish's fucking face there. Is Father Fish one of my fans here? Does he make it on the board? Yeah, he did. I don't know who that is, but it's awesome. All right. Oh, I already put my dab stuff away, so let's do a bong hit. Tried to see. I'm starting to feel better enough that I didn't even think, and I tried to lift my bong up there, and I couldn't do it. I know one thing I did the other day that I shouldn't have. My shoulder was hurting, and I went out on my kayak, and I paddled about 5 miles, and it hurt the whole fucking time, and I just kept powering through and paddling anyway, and it's been very much sore since then. So I think that's when I think there might have been a little bit of a muscle strain going on or something from some stupid whatever. I slept on it funny, who knows? And then while it was already tender, I fucking twanged it, and it's really hurt since then. But I really feel like I'm isolating it down to the exact muscle that it is. So hopefully in another week or so I'll be able to get out and paddle again. I'm not going to paddle until it feels better. I'm afraid if I do, it'll just make it worse. All right. And that was that. I already took my ashtray out of here, so we'll take this back in here. Ooh, coffee. Mm. All right, everybody. So I'll go through my normal spiel before we wrap up, just because that's something I usually do. I see there's a few of you here that are not already members, but you've probably already heard the spiel. If you want to be a member, $2.99 a month will get you access to the members only live stream on Wednesday, and we'll also get you access to, I'm trying to say the Discord first, and I'm saying one thing first while thinking about the other thing. You'll get access to the Discord server, And I also do a members only live stream on Wednesday night, and you'll get access to all that for $2.99 a month. So sign up for all that if you're interested. Otherwise, every Monday, every Friday, and Sunday, I'm here at 8 p.m. So check it out if you're interested. Thanks for watching. I hope you all had a good time tonight. A little low key, but it was fun. So we will see you again on Sunday. All right, everybody. Good night.